Welcome to the Bloody Disgusting Network. The ensuing show will change, transform, and otherwise alter you. Good luck.
My friendship to all of you precludes my involvement with any one of you. But if you wanna make love, then I do too, and I'll be right there behind you. All in the name of oh, all in the name of oh, all in the name of oh.
Greetings and welcome yet again to the Losers Club, a Stephen King podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Justin Juniper Hill Gerber, and we are kicking off coverage for Stephen King's collection of 3 novellas and 1 short story. That dark collection is called Full Dark, No Stars. Not one. No stars at all. We'll discuss the book a bit before solely focusing on Full Dark's first novella, 1922. But before we do that, we'll discuss the first experience each of us had with this collection. And I personally would love to know if the people that you're about to hear from will be willing to assist me with this problem I'm having with my wife. Hey, dark bits for a dark episode and a dark, dark story. First, she's a resident witch-a woman. Who are you? Who are you? When did you first read this book? And most importantly, to quote George Clooney as Batman and Robin, will you help me?
Hello, this is Ashley, the sweetheart bandit Cassidy.
Oh.
I first read Full Dark, No Stars in 2013, I'm guessing. I'm guessing it was about 2013. That was like my King Renaissance. That's when I kind of came back. I read Under the Dome, 11/22/63, Dolores Claiborne, Full Dark, No Stars, like all in like the span of like 2 months. It was a dark time, but it was a good time for everyone.
It was a dark time. Was it full dark?
Full dark. There were no stars. Let's see. Was it 11/22/63 had a few stars, but we'll get to that next month.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. I need to reread this collection. 1922 is the story that I remembered the most clearly, and possibly it's because I really, really loved the adaptation on Netflix, but I remembered it very clearly. But I was excited to listen into the ebook because that's my new thing now. Thanks, guys, for introducing me to ebooks.
Wow. Wait, who reads the ebook? Out of curiosity.
Oh, good question. I didn't know him. It wasn't Raul Julia.
Is it? It's Raul Esparza.
Yeah, that was Under the Dome.
That's right.
What if
George Clooney?
I'd love if Raul Julia came back from the dead to read Under the Dome, though.
Hey.
His name is Big Jim Rennie!
This is going to be a short episode. Don't worry, everybody.
Scribd doesn't tell you who reads them, and that's stupid.
Wow,
Fix your
that's kind of
app,
ridiculous.
Scribd.
Oh, my God.
Okay, well, maybe John Scribd read it. We'll never know. Okay, I have a question for you about this, though. When you're reading these books 10 years ago, are you reading them at home? Are you going to a favorite coffee shop? Are you on the train somewhere? What's going on when you're reading these books? Or this
I was at
particular
home.
novel?
I was in my small 1-bedroom apartment in North Hollywood, nowhere near Nebraska.
What better place to read 1922 than Hollywood, California?
Under the bright lights in the big city.
Irony.
Yeah, I know. But I really love the collection. I remember surprisingly being into how dark the entire collection is. But like I said, I remember 1922 the most clearly. And the others I really need to go back and reread. But I remember being pretty traumatized by this collection.
Yeah,
in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. I agree. And 1922 definitely sets the tone for what's
Sure
to come
does.
with the rest of the stories. And we do have another very special co-host on this episode. What can I say? He's the maestro.
Oh, Lord.
Not Leonard Bernstein. Not the Bradley Cooper maestro. Another maestro. And who are you? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We have to go back. Ashley, are you going to help me kill my wife?
Of course, yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, we can move on now. Mike, introduce yourself. tell us about your first experience with Full Dark, No Stars, and of course, will you help both of us kill my wife?
Well, absolutely. You know,
Thank you.
This wouldn't be an 80s rom-com if we didn't kill some wives in here. You know what I mean? Or should I say a Midnight Madness movie? Hey, this is Michael Monroeville Mall Rothman. And look, I've read 1922 before. I read it when the movie came out because I was trying to really prep up because me and you, actually, we got to talk to Thomas Jane. And I thought that we'd spend a lot of time talking about 1922, and instead we talked about Absinthe and The Replacements and Twin Peaks. And so I over-prepared. But, you know, I'm not going to get into the full dark details. But let's just say the fall of 2017 was a little crazy. So I don't remember a lot of it other than the fact that dark times, indeed. But I do love the movie, just like Ashley said, and huge fan of it. And I was surprised when I revisited it again for this collection, which, I mean, honestly, that was the reason why I jumped on this. This is the only novella I'll be covering on this collection. And it's strictly because I was taken by the story, even though I didn't remember a lot of the bits and details, because it does stray a little bit from the movie. So, but yeah, grim King, and I love when King is grim. So very excited to talk. And now I really want to finish the rest of Full Dark, No Stars, because if it's as dark as this, then baby, I'm in. I am.
Oh, I didn't know that you hadn't read the rest of this. Okay, so you've only read 1922.
I've only read 1922. Yeah. So I have not had a chance because we hopped right from Holly to this, and I have to dive right into 1122. So that's going to be my thing. So yeah,
1922, 1963. They're all over the place.
They're all over the place. Yeah.
It seems like, from what I gather, just reading on the internet, 1922 is not usually the one that people name as their favorite. It was mine when I read it. Back in the day.
Be interested. You know, it's funny. We talk a little bit about what our most favorite stories, novellas, or novels to go back and reread for the podcast have been in our Kingies of the 2000s episode. I'm not sure if that's going to come out before this episode or after.
Before.
Folks, it's all a blur. This is my 4th podcast in 5 days. I don't know what day it is. All I know is that it's Full Dark, No Stars.
Where am I?
Okay, so in that case, hopefully you've listened to our Patreon episode. It's going to be on the Patreon, right, Mike? Kingies?
Kingies is going to be main feed, baby.
Oh, well, folks, you've got absolutely no excuse. You hopefully listened to that entire episode. It was a lot of fun. But this, I believe, was one of the stories I talked about being excited to revisit. And I am absolutely looking forward to revisiting Good Marriage, which I think people probably refer to as their favorite. Ashley, is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, a lot of people said A Good Marriage.
I do love A Good Marriage, and it's shorter than I thought it was. I'm looking forward to getting to that. I do intend on being on all of these episodes. I've already started to prep for Big Driver, which we'll be discussing.
I remember that one
month.
being.
It's a real fun one. There won't be a lot of brevity.
It's a real blast, yeah.
For Big Driver. So we're getting it all out right now.
Yeah.
Not that this book is full of brevity or this story, but
I just looked it up so we can, have it in the episode. Craig Wasson.
Oh,
who
little Halloweenies connection.
Mm-hmm.
Halloweenies connection. Craig Wasson, of course, played the psychologist in Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
He's also the lead in Body Double.
Yep.
And he's also one of the leads in Ghost Story.
Yes, he is. Which technically is a Losers Club connection.
Yeah. So there you go.
If you want to see
his
penis, it's in Ghost Story, the movie. He falls off a building in a dream, and his dick's waving around.
His ding-a-ling's just waving.
Yeah.
Well, be sure to pause this episode. Check it out wherever streamers are found.
Yeah.
Let us know what you thought on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere else you won't get banned. Well, for me, I read this for the first time the month it came out, and I remember reading this at a local indie coffee shop called Starbucks. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with that. Down the street here. Yeah, if you want to write that down, it's a Starbucks, like
one word.
When people identify dollars in a cool way. And this was also the very first book I read by Stephen King in Chicago, Illinois. We have finally caught up to me living in Chicago.
Hey.
For this podcast. Everything else has been kind of, based upon my North Carolina years, my years in Florida growing up, but we have now reached
the Midwest,
full
baby.
blown, Justin. Yes. So this was actually a pretty good environment to read. As you know, November in Chicago gets quite chilly, but it's just the perfect type of chilly. It's not 20 degrees and ice all over the place. It was very autumnal because, as we all know, after October 31st, spooky season is over.
Nope.
And we are now entering into the Thanksgiving season or the late fall, going into the winter, right? Is that correct, Mike?
Well, technically, but at the same time, if you recall, you can stretch spooky season all the way until New Year's, where you can enjoy A Nightmare Before Christmas.
You sound more like a Nightmare on Elm Street. This sounds like Freddy, where he just says every town has an Elm Street. It's like that's not how it works.
For me, it has to, because I just can't handle the fact that spooky season never ends. So
Halloween, spooky season's always in your heart.
It's true.
Okay, let me ask you this question, Ashley, because this is we're crossing over here.
Here we go.
For you, when does look? We watch horror movies all year. We engage in horror all year, of course, right? But for you, when does spooky season begin?
I have been so good the past couple years.
Yes.
I will hold off until the 1st of October.
Don't say that. Don't say that. That is BS.
Yes.
No.
It's hard. It is so hard.
Don't
and like it like
you did it, Ashley. I agree.
Barely,
it's a special time.
Like you said, though, you watch horror movies all year. I just watched Scare Me this weekend with my husband. Like, I'm always watching them, but I don't decorate anymore. I don't start the marathoning. I don't get really spooky until October 1st.
Yes, because, we did it, Ashley. We're on the same page. So, finally, somebody I have a kinship with.
But I will say, this has only been the last, I've been really good for 3 years. This is maybe my 4th year that I'm restraining myself to October 1st, but it feels so good on the 1st of October.
Doesn't it feel amazing?
It feels so
you
good.
start burning through horror movies.
Release,
you're doing the marathons, and you're really throwing yourself into it.
Mike, 1922 is a great book, and
and it was nice talking to you guys.
It was really fun.
Right.
Yep, love it. Thomas Jane, cool stuff.
I did not read 1922. I just wanted Ashley on the record to agree with me.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
this was all a ruse.
We do have to cover not only 1922, but we really need to get into the origins of this particular collection. And what better way to do that than to make sure first, of course, we've got our library cards, because we are heading down to the Derry Public Library.
Mike Hanlon, if you see...
Excuse me, sir. Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do? Well, you better let the poor guy out.
Tell Mike Hanlon that I had to go, that I had to get cleaned up. Tell him I'll see him tonight.
Get out! Last chance, Toja. Get out!
In the Under the Dome coverage, Randall mentioned this, but it has to be said again. Sometimes Uncle Stephen King, for the layman, goes on a big promo tour when his books are coming out, and sometimes he doesn't. And this is one of those times he really didn't. However, we can treat the afterword for Full Dark as a way to receive some insight into how this collection came to be, and in some ways why it is the way it is. I want to read some excerpts and hear your opinions, including people who celebrate spooky season before October 1st. First off, I quote Stephen King, "The stories in this book are harsh. You may have found them hard to read in places. If so, be assured that I found them equally hard to write in places. From the start, even before a young man, I can now hardly comprehend writing The Long Walk in his college dormitory room. I felt the best fiction was both propulsive and assaultive. It gets in your face. Sometimes it shouts in your face. I have no quarrel with literary fiction, which usually concerns itself with extraordinary people in ordinary situations. But as both a reader and a writer, I'm much more interested by ordinary people in extraordinary situations. I want to provoke an emotional, even visceral reaction in my readers." So my first question to both of you, which kind of bounces off that last part about, or just all about the visceral, basically. At what point do acts of violence in fiction become too much for you? And not necessarily based on your squeamish level, right? Your tolerance level, but from a critical standpoint, when is it possible for fiction to go too far for you? Ashley, not to throw an enormous question at you like that, but what do you think?
No kidding. I definitely think I can't ever remember a time where I put a book down because it was too violent. Films, however, I definitely, there's a line that gets crossed. I think, man, I don't know. I don't know when it would cross a line. I think it's the same with like comedians, where it's like there's a vibe. There's a vibe that you give off where I feel safe with you as a consumer of your product. And maybe if I had read Full Dark, No Stars as my first Stephen King book, it might have been too much. It might have been too violent. I think I had just come to expect bits of violence from him. And I trust him as like an author to not give me egregious violence that there's no point in.
Okay, I see where you're coming from.
I don't know. That's a good question. I want to hear what you guys have to say because I don't know how to answer that.
I understand where you're coming from with that. I think in terms of what you were saying about being more familiar with King, I think you're more comfortable with it, right? I think it does come from who is this coming from? And I also think about that in terms of comedy and just with people you know. Like if you know somebody really close and they make a really questionable statement, you might laugh at them because you know them and you know that they're decent people. But if somebody you don't know says that, you may jump to a conclusion that these are like
even if they're like, no, that's just how he is. I'm like, nah,
which is,
it's a vibe. I don't like the vibe.
Exactly, the vibe.
And I think Stephen has always given me a good vibe. He's never done something so egregious and then not sort of made up for it. And whereas if I was reading like a debut novel, possibly that had this level of violence, I don't know. I don't know if that author had gained my trust enough to do that to me. Although I don't think as sort of like as many times as I cringed reading 1922, and like I said earlier, I need to reread the rest of the stories in Full Dark, No Stars. I don't ever feel like he takes it too far. I will say, though, I do remember being extremely uncomfortable reading Big Driver. So maybe that's going to cross the line.
That is a different visceral experience than 1922, and we'll definitely be getting into that in that episode 100%. But I see where you're coming from with that too, Ashley. Mike, what about you, though? I mean, I feel like your threshold's pretty loose, but is there anything that really, not necessarily even offends you, but you're kind of just, you're put off to from a narrative standpoint? What's too far?
I think it's mostly when attitudes come through, you know, and we talked a little bit about this on a recent book episode, but I think that's ultimately when you can kind of see the veneer dissipate and you see the transparent truths that King gets at and wants to talk about. When it's a little too explicit and squeezed in, I think that's when I'm like, all right, like now I know what you're really trying to get into here. But really not a lot. I mean, I am the last person in the world to ever get offended or get grossed out or anything. I just think the world is a wasteland enough, and I've just expected,
King's Dominion, Dark Tower 3.
That's true. Very true. But so for me, it really does take a lot to just kind of really, you know, I guess, quote unquote, put me off. But even then, I'm almost fascinated by the depravity. Like the one book that always comes to mind of the only book that ever made me like feel like I'm going to lurch is, and I've said it on this podcast, is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. And there are sections in that where I'm just like, oh my God, like how does someone even visualize some of these ideas? But it was never enough for me to go, fuck this. Like he's probably my favorite author of all time. And like and for me, it was fascinating because I was like, all right, how did that person get to these conclusions? So then that becomes even more intriguing to me. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's whatever doesn't take me out of the story. It's funny because he has a line that's in that afterward where he talks about, you know, like making them think as they read is not my deal. I put that in italics because if the tale is good enough and the character is vivid enough, thinking will supplant emotion when the tale has been told and the book set aside, sometimes with relief. And that really is if they're doing that, I'm in. If it's something where I can see, again, if I could see the strings to borrow from my dad when he got kicked out of Howdy Doody, that's the only time I'm like, all right, enough. That's it. So
yeah, it's really funny because we just did Just After Sunset, and there was that story, and I don't remember which one it was. I don't know what it was called, but it was that story about the guy the writer who was like at a gas station bathroom.
Yes.
And he heard a guy like rest stop. He heard a guy like beating up his pregnant girlfriend or something. And it's so funny because that wasn't a really like violent or graphic story. And that's the only time that I was like, enough, King.
You know what that is? It's a circumstance, right? Actually, it's like, who is the person being beaten up?
And why are you making me listen to this or like experience this happening? The payoff wasn't there for me, and therefore the violence wasn't justified.
Yeah, that's where you're saying, why does it have to be this person as opposed to just letting it happen, right? Yeah. I think for me, I think you can find art in anything. So I am pretty open about that, even the darkest of materials. And my threshold is pretty loose, but I think there's a difference between watching something like Friday the 13th Part 3 and Martyrs.
Yeah.
Are you both familiar with Martyrs, the French film?
Or any French horror film.
And it's not even, honestly, I said French film, period.
Yeah,
really, when you get down to it, terrifying. But there's something about what happens in the climax of the movie Martyrs that to me, and I say, I'm not trying to censor the movie. I'm just saying for me, I can't deal with what happens at the end of that movie. It's just, it's almost too relentless.
Yeah.
Whereas Friday 13th Part 3, when he's just walking in and chopping somebody's head off, it's fine. I can deal with it. We're all having a fun time. But there's nothing really fun about any of the violence in Martyrs. And I think there's a distinction between having a fun, pulpy time and something that is just too much. And I think 1922 definitely finds its way in the middle, because as dark as this is, there is some dark humor for sure.
Totally.
To be found in this story. Let me read this next part from the afterword. King writes, I have tried my best in full dark, no stars, to record what people might do and how they might behave under certain dire circumstances. The people in these stories are not without hope, but they acknowledge that even our fondest hopes and our fondest wishes for our fellow man and the society in which we will live may sometimes be in vain, often even. But I think they also say that nobility most fully reside not in success, but in trying to do the right thing. And that when we fail to do that, or willfully turn away from the challenge, hell follows. I'll ask this simple question of both of you. Mike, is trying good enough? How about these deep questions?
I know,
this
Jesus
episode,
Christ.
I mean, let's go. Existential crisis for all of us.
I think trying can be enough, because this is, especially in the world that we live in, sometimes trying is all you can do. I'm sorry, Yoda, who I've referenced twice this week already at this point.
You're a big Yoda fan.
The man is wise. And I'm not talking about Baby Yoda or whatever, Grogu or Grogu, whatever. Grago. What is it?
Grago.
It's like, is it Drago in Rocky IV? Anyway.
Yeah. Grago!
But do or do not, there is no try. I think, it's very hard to say that in this world. Although, if you're just a good person, if you keep, good one step forward, there's always good guiding you. I think that's enough of a try. But even then, it's like, you can't guarantee that, there's always winds and forces out there that turn you to the dark side at all whims. And that's kind of why I love this story so much. But even though this is certainly a guy who falls into his own abyss by his own accord.
This guy's not trying too hard.
No.
In a good way. Ashley, what about you?
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. Like some days I don't shower, Doesn't mean I'm not doing the best I can. Doesn't mean I'm not doing my best.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to put in context with 1922 because I feel like he tries to do a lot of things, but none of them are good things. Like
Yes.
he's not trying. He's not trying to do good. He's not trying to get by. You know what I mean? Live the day to day. Like he did a horrific thing. And everything that he tries after that is simply just to save his own ass, which he ultimately can't.
He's trying to get away with it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's obviously, there's nothing noble or there's no nobility in that, right, Mike?
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, to borrow a word that's going to come up very soon, towards the end of the year, he's very obdurate. He doesn't change.
Yeah.
You know, he's not willfully able to. I mean, towards the, you know, there are some hindsights throughout this that are peppered throughout this story, where he's like, "Oh, I should have done this, should have done that." But at the core of it, he still has that venom that's infected his veins and infected those around him, his land, his son, his neighbors.
And it's never, I shouldn't have killed my wife.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
That's
like,
right.
I shouldn't have killed her this way.
Yeah. I mean, even in the darkest hours of this story, he's still finding a way to be like, nah, it's her.
Yeah.
You know, that's a problem. That's the character flaw.
You know, you said he's not willfully doing this, but he's definitely fully Wilf.
He is fully Wilf.
Ironically enough.
Full Wilf.
Yeah.
Wilf James. Here's one last part I wanted to read here and get your take on this. Here's something else I believe. This is King, by the way, but maybe I agree with him. If you're going into a very dark place, like Wilf James's Nebraska farmhouse in 1922, then you should take a bright light and shine it on everything. If you don't want to see, why in God's name would you dare the dark at all? The great naturalist writer Frank Norris has always been one of my literary idols, and I've kept what he said on this subject in mind for over 40 years. Here's Frank Norris's quote. I never truckled. I never took off my hat to fashion and held it out for pennies. By God, I told them the truth. I like this quote a lot.
Yeah.
And not to give the rewatchables on the Ringer Network any press, but I do remember Bill Hader talking about the behavior of certain characters on Taxi Driver and not finding them problematic because they were being presented truthfully. And I try to remember that when it comes to taking in, or as we do on this podcast and all of our podcasts in a lot of ways, critiquing art, right?
Yeah.
It's bad, it's awful. It's not ultimately real in a work of fiction, but do we believe it could be? And I think that is what can separate something being problematic with being just a depiction of something that could exist. Ashley, I'm not sure where you land on that type of material, but yeah, I'd like to hear your take on that, I guess.
Well, I was thinking about Full Wilf and how he
Full Wilf, no stars.
Full Wilf, no stars. I was thinking about Full Wilf, and as we were saying earlier, like, yeah, that guy wouldn't think I shouldn't have killed my wife.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't have. Like, this is how his brain would work. These are the conclusions that this man would come to. And, like, being offended by the fact that he would come to those conclusions, I mean, I think that if you were the reader there, you should feel good about yourself because you should be offended because his decisions are bad decisions.
That's right.
He's a bad man, but he's still a character with a story. And even though, like, I think some people, when they have a main character like Wilf, they think that the intention of the writer was to get you to root for that character.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And that can be offensive.
Yeah.
But that's not Stephen King's intention at all, to get you to root for this man. So do you guys know Am I the Asshole on Reddit?
Oh,
No.
yeah. Love this subreddit. Yeah.
It's the fucking best. So there's a subreddit called Am I the Asshole? People write in and they say things like, you know, this happened to me. I ruined my sister's wedding. Am I the asshole? And then people chime in and there's usually 3 responses. YTA, you're the asshole. NTA, not the asshole. And ESH, which is everyone sucks here. And this is definitely an ESH situation. Like,
you are correct in that respect.
Everyone sucks here. You're not supposed to really be rooting for anyone except maybe the universe.
Yeah, that's right. Except maybe the rats
for righting
honestly.
the wrongs.
That's such a good comp. The thing I think of when people say like, they're rooting for some character, it's not so much I'm like rooting. Like, I love Breaking Bad, right? Like, it's my favorite show of all time. I'm not exactly rooting for Walt because I think he's a good guy. I'm rooting for him because he's the main character in a situation that I need to see the end of the story. I want to know where his story is going to go. Exactly. How far he's going to be depraved. How far is he willing to go to reach his goals? And what is he willing to do along the way? And ultimately, I think he does a lot of things towards the end that are like, all right, that's actually pretty good. But I think when people are like, incels, they all look to Joker and they get the wrong thing. That certainly exists. There are idiots that go and watch Taxi Driver and are like, look how cool Travis Bickle is hitting on, Sybil Shepherd and taking her to a porn theater. No, he's a moron. Like there's something clearly wrong with them, but I'm fascinated. I want to see where this goes. And I'm rooting for this character,
the story to keep going.
Take me there. Yes. And that's kind of where I look at it, is that. And also, like, the thing that I have to keep stressing that I think got lost somewhere in the discourse, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 5, is that, and I sound like Ben Affleck in this scene, but like in this moment, but like fictional characters, like they are fictional characters. Like they're not moral arbiters of whatever they're doing. And I think at some point we've turned anything that has to do with certain subjects to be these essential go-to JPEGs for whatever file they're put under. Like, oh, well, Walter White, he's a teacher. And so this means that he's making teachers look bad. Like, obviously no one's really said that, but like that sort of argument is flaunted all the time online. I see left and right. And I find that so limiting, because it's like,
limiting is a good word, Mike. I think it's, it's these sweeping gestures, and they're not even trying to interrogate the writer or director's actual intent. It's just exactly, and we all react to art differently. That's the great thing about art. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. That's just a fact. I'm sure some mathematician out there is going to say, well, actually, and that's a whole other story. But you have to take it from where it's coming from. And for me, not to put another pun in this podcast, but the story is king.
Yeah.
Like, it's about the story. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Breaking Bad, and we talked about bad people. Like, for me, the best arcs are when you're kind of, despite all the awful things that Walter White is doing in Breaking Bad, and I think about Vic Mackey and The Shield. Mm-hmm. Like, you were kind of rooting for these people for the sake of the show, like you said, Ashley, to keep the show going because it's interesting. But I think the best stories with those characters will be that by the end, and as things are wrapping up, you do want to see them fall, and you do want to see them fail in some way. And I do think that does happen in 1922. Mm-hmm. I don't think you're rooting for full Wilf, but you want the story to keep going, but it's not going to be a happy ending, and you are counting on it and hoping it will not be.
I think there's also a part of you that almost wants them to redeem themselves too. And not necessarily like become like all of a sudden be like, well, I'm a good guy now, but like to at least take responsibility for their role and like how bad it got. And he doesn't really, but
he thinks he is.
He thinks he is. He thinks he's really got it figured out, but like he hasn't ever.
And I've got a lot on that when we get to that particular section, but I want to read this last part, which I really liked about in the afterword. King writes, "I'm happy to go there because I believe most people are essentially good. I know that I am. It's you I'm not entirely sure of." I thought that was a nice.
It's a great line
by King there. So again, the release for Full Dark No Stars did not see King hit the press cycle hard, and background info is relatively scarce except for that afterward. It should also be noted, though, that this was sandwiched in between Under the Dome and 11/22/63. So I think he was kind of figuring, you know what, it's going to be a busy press cycle for those two books. So I'm going to take it easy for this fall of 2010.
And were all of these novellas, because I don't really know much about Full Dark No Stars, were all of these novellas written for Full Dark No Stars?
Yes, this is not a collection from the past. These are actually written and all published for the first time.
Dark place,
here. Full Dark No Stars. Yeah. He was definitely in the full dark mode. What can I say? But there is, for all you out there who've got a website, it's called, let me get this straight, youtube.com. There is a little ad back in 2010 for Full Dark No Stars. There's just it's like a flickering light bulb. There's flashes of people. And you also see, of course, a rat. And the narrator says, quote, "If you go to a very dark place, take a bright light and shine it on everything. Because if you don't want to see what's there, why dare the dark at all?" Doesn't that sound familiar? That's in the afterword for Full Dark No Stars. Wow. I do have to point out, though, that once again, our great podcast archivist, Brian Burnett, did point me in the direction of a very interesting video out there that was taken around the time of Full Dark's release. There's a 25-minute video that you can also watch on youtube.com. And it's King answering reader-submitted questions for Simon and Schuster. No, for Simon and Schuster. The parent company of Scribner, who published Full Dark No Stars. Maybe you've heard of them. Maybe we've even talked about them earlier. Who knows? And you'll be hearing excerpts from this interview throughout this month and next, covering all of the stories in this collection. But for this episode, I just wanted to pull and focus on questions and answers that were pertinent to, the overall book and 1922 for this. And not to pat myself on the back, but I literally transcribed this interview.
Wow.
Okay? So, I put in a lot of work. I slowed it to quarter speed.
I was going to say, it's not easy.
It sounds like King in 1985 talking, but not to get too dark already. So he's asked, which story is your favorite? He says, they're all my children. I love all of these stories. It's like when you have your kids and somebody says, well, which one of your kids do you love best? You might have feelings one way or the other for this child or that child, but you love them all equally, so I can't answer that question. Good answer, Uncle Stevie. He does ask, what was the inspiration for the title for the book? He says, the 4 stories together needed a title, and I published a number of books with shorter fiction that have kind of a motif. I wanted to have some kind of a thing that would go along with that motif of stories to be read after dark. And these stories are so black and so nasty in some ways that it seemed like Full Dark No Stars was the perfect title. I've never really thought about, but when you do think about all of his short story collections, they more or less feature night, right? They've got
Just After
Night Shift,
Sunset,
Just After Sunset, Nightmares and Dreamscapes,
Bazaar of Bad Dreams,
kind of Bazaar of Bad Dreams at night. Am I forgetting something major here?
Everything's Eventual.
Crew. That's an exception to the rule. Uncle Stevie, come on. That's like a light cover too, But that's not necessarily the darkest of material, so you give it a pass there.
Has his most chilling story, I would say.
4 Past Midnight. No.
Yeah.
1408.
Well, the thing is that with the novellas collection, they all seem in sync. That was something I realized just looking at these 3 together too, is that they all feel as if they're in tandem with one another, at least by title alone. With different seasons, 4 Past Midnight, Full Dark No Stars. It almost feels, for me, it feels very akin to George A. Romero when he's naming the night, the dawn, the day, Living Dead trilogy.
Yeah.
In a way. Because there's a shifting of time in being discussed what's happening here in every one of his novella collections. So I don't know. I think in that sense there is some symmetry there. I love this title. I think it really works well. I think it certainly is, out of all because we talked a lot about Just After Sunset as kind of being all right, that's an interesting title for that collection as well. I think this one works better. I just think it really just stresses exactly what we were just discussing with all those quotes in the afterword, just as how dark and depraved he's willing to get in these stories. So
this collection, I can assure you, once you reread it, and then Mike, when you read it, they do feel of a piece in a way that the other collections don't. I feel like especially with different seasons, right? Those are deliberately supposed to be different from one another. But these are absolutely aligned in the darkness, like the full dark, I do have a question, Ashley. Is there an alternate title that you could have used, or maybe even think he should have used for 1922? That's the real question here. Anything pop up in your mind?
The one thing that I thought would be a good title is The Conniving Man.
Yeah.
He calls...
That's definitely a theme.
Yeah, he calls a part of him, the part that does all the bad things, the conniving man. And he, if he is going to blame any part of himself for the way his life turned out, he would blame that part of himself, which is obviously
he would somehow still manage to use the word or blame another man.
Yeah.
Somehow, right?
Mm-hmm. It's that.
Mike, what about you? Do you think
man inside.
Do you think of something else instead of 1922?
I do love this title just because when we think about bad times in our lives, we always usually, well, at least traditionally, file them under a year.
What a year, yeah.
And I do relate to that. But I think, something as simple, you could have done something as plain and simple as like Wilfred's Confession or, what was
Librarian's Confession?
Librarian's Confession. Yeah. Something like, I feel like that's what the title would have been in like the 90s if it was like part of Nightmares and Dreamscapes or something like that.
Because the whole time, the whole book, you'd be like, why is he called the librarian?
That's actually a really good point. Yeah. Although that would spoil a lot of it, just kind of like what the point of view does sometimes. But I don't know. I think that would be it for me. I do really love the simplicity of this because you really don't know. And then you do, though, because in the first opening fucking line, he says exactly what he does. So, I mean, it's
I think the only other title that would have worked, and it would have been blunt, and it would have worked, especially in the context of this collection, is actually a title he ended up using for another novella collection that came out a couple years ago. Rat.
Oh, just rat.
Rats. Rats, I guess. That would have been the way to do it. I mean, that would have... You can play all day with what that means for this story. It's figuratively, spiritually, everything else.
And you could open up with the Pearl Jam quote from...
Oh, God, Rats. One of my least favorite Pearl Jam songs. What is it on? Is it on...
I think it's Vitalogy.
That's on
isn't it?
Vitalogy. That is on Vitalogy, yeah. Tough beat for that song.
Yeah, I agree.
Album. Okay. Here's another question from this video interview. Do you feel that Full Dark No Stars is your definitive work on the theme of confronting a stranger inside, or do you think that there's more to explore? Ashley, he is definitely referring to The Conniving Man with that question. Stephen King says, there's always more to explore. I'm only inside my own head, so I've got myself to judge by and what I see, what I hear. But my feeling is that most of us have other people inside us, good people, bad people, but I think most of us suppress the stranger that either excites us, embarrasses us, or frightens us, and those are all fertile fields to be explored. I think we're all lots of people. The brain is an awesomely complex computer, and it gets up to some weird stuff sometimes, and I like to explore it. Another question here is there any significance to the photograph on the front of Full Dark No Stars? Now, we're referring to the original hardcover, and I will describe it as King does. He says, well, we had to have a cover. I love how he always answers these with, well, I had to have a title. I had to have a cover. And they asked me if I had any ideas. And so many of the stories are so dark, and at least two of the stories deal with women in terrible circumstances. And the image that came to my mind was a woman with her head down and basically her hands holding her head. What I saw in my mind's eye isn't exactly the cover. It was more like this. And he held his hand kind of just in front of his head. And the art director said, quote, that looks like an Excedrin headache. So we modified it a little bit, but one of the things I liked about it is it doesn't look like any of the other covers. I think the publisher had a little doubt about it initially, but the feedback on the cover on the whole has been pretty good. And I do love this cover.
Yeah.
It's quite striking. And I mean, as striking as that images of the woman at the bottom of the cover, the pitch black around her.
Yeah.
That sums it all up for me. It's a great representation of what you're going to read when you open up that book.
It reminds me of, for some reason, the cover of Boxing Helena, but that's...
Yeah.
Even though...
Unfortunately, everything happens in these stories.
I know.
They drop back.
And I don't believe
Not
Julian
to spoil
Sands...
Boxing Helena. But...
Yeah, it's just missing Julian Sands here. Oh, by the way, it wasn't Vitalogy, it was Verses. So our Pearl Jam fans...
Verses?
Yeah, Bugs is in Vitalogy.
Bugs.
Yeah.
You know what? I take it. Listen, I take it back in two ways. I'm thinking about Bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Bugs is the song I don't like, and that's in Vitology. So I was right. I just had the wrong title.
Yeah.
Moving on. The book was released to good reviews, and you can read a slew of them on this great website. Have either of you ever gone to LitHub?
Mm-mm.
LitHub's great. They've got a section within called bookmarks, and it's kind of like the Metacritic for books. You can find a bunch of book reviews, new book reviews for books to come, books that have just come out. I've really discovered a lot of books I never would have without this website and that particular tab. And this isn't like that rat website, Rotten Tomatoes, where things are either good or bad. And as we know, Mike, who used to submit stuff, you could submit
anything
100 C+ reviews out of 100, and it will equal 100% fresh. And people just think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, it's funny, we record this, and today there's an article where I'm really going after Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's in Vulture about the downfall of Rotten Tomatoes. And I do encourage everybody out there who only goes to see movies
based on
Rotten Tomatoes scores, check it out. I'm being serious. Check it out. Good stuff. Anyway, end of rant. So in this, there are no pan reviews, but I did pull one rave, one positive, and one mixed review to see where we land on this. So I'll read them one by one. I'll see if either of you can see where these reviews are coming from, disagree or agree. Let's rock and roll. Kind of like the song Rats on Versus, but not like the song Bugs in Vitology. Okay, here we go. First up, rave. Guess who? Janet Maslin. She had a lot of kind of things to say about Under the Dome. This is for the New York Times, and she wrote, Mr. King has gone short-winded with Full Dark No Stars, a set of 4 spooky moral tales. The sheer size of its rodent population is enough to stamp it with the horror label. But will it serve as a page-turner even for the reader who is aghast at some of the whisker-twitching particulars, especially in 1922, the opening story? What's most interesting about this story is not the terrible secret that the wife will uncover. This is another story, folks. It's that Mr. King, who seems able to write compact tales or gargantuan ones with equal ease. I love this ending here. This is perfect summation of 1922. Can invest in a bland coin-collecting accountant with any kind of frisson at all. And I mean, I agree with that. I think that he does such great things with the most ordinary people, which he talks about. His strength is writing the ordinary. So I do like this take.
Well, I think that like when you said earlier, there's different people inside of us, and I think that that's something that happens in these stories too. Is that like he's not always a conniving man, you know what I mean? But something brought it out in him, and I think it's the same when moms can lift their SUV off of their child. You know what I mean? Like when push comes to shove, there is a different person inside of us that we didn't know that was there that can come out and handle a situation when we can't.
Not to go on the tangent 45 minutes in, but that reminds me of the pilot for the old 1970s show, The Incredible Hulk.
Oh, yeah. Bruce
and
Banner.
They actually do a study on that, and this woman talks about how she was able to lift up a car to save her son, and that is what starts Dr. Banner on his quest to see if there was something else inside of us. Good show, The Incredible Hulk. Yeah. Anyway.
Ang Lee's Incredible Hulk, too.
Yeah, sure. Mike, what do you think about that review from Janet Maslin, who's a big King head?
Solid, I think right to rave. And I do think that the obsession with that other self, that especially that one within us, is when King is, honestly, flexing some of his best horror muscles, in my opinion. Because I think that's the scariest thing in general. And I'm going to talk a lot about that in this episode, is just the inescapable descent into hell, which is the mind. And, how, for me, that's kind of where I always say his dramatic chops is definitely like a stealth strength of his, but I think he's in his wheelhouse. Most comfortable wheelhouse, honestly, is when he's kind of just, I don't know, kicking around what we do with our own minds. So I agree with Janet. So
inevitable doom.
Yeah.
Here's a positive review from David Hewlin from the Los Angeles Times. Your old neck of the woods, Ashley. Maybe you read this review.
I might have.
10, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. As its title suggests, the work is bleak. with an Old Testament-like sense of affliction and retribution and assurance that every sin must be repaid. This theme of intimacy gone wrong runs throughout the collection. For all King's interest in the supernatural, he is at his most acute when he deals with human evil, the depravity of which we are capable and the lengths to which we will go to convince ourselves that we are good. Such a double vision marks many of King's novels, from The Shining to Desperation to Bag of Bones. This is not a mailbag episode, folks. I just had to mention the actual novel Bag of Bones. Don't be confused. I actually do also like this take here. I do think that King is at his best when he's dealing just with human evil. Mm-hmm. You know, Randall's on this episode, but Henry Bowers is his favorite character for a reason. Henry Bowers, while he's ultimately under the influence of Pennywise as he gets older, he's just a bad boy. And there's something fascinating about where we go as human beings. I mean, why do we think true crime podcasts are so popular, right? Mm-hmm. It's just the depths that we go to. There's something fascinating about that we don't want to acknowledge, that we could possibly have any type of evil within ourselves. So
yeah, and if you think of stories like The Mist or Under the Dome, and those are stories about how, you know, the actual monsters, the actual slimy, clawed, winged, feathered monsters aren't the scariest part of what's happening. Like the scariest thing is the unreliable people that you are locked in here with, and the fact that you don't know what they're going to do next.
Yeah. It was kind of weird at the end of Under the Dome when Big Jim Rennie turned into a werewolf, but I mean, that was just, you know, I think the editor said, you got to do something here.
Yeah.
Junior!
You must be talking about the CBS show, because that may be where that ends up. We don't know.
Honestly,
that would have been very funny if on the CBS show, everything's kind of like the book, and in season 3, like episode 4.
Season 3, yeah.
Season 3 is when it would happen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mike, I know you like to talk about the possibilities and negative ways of the human condition. What do you think about this take by David Hewlin?
Oh, 100% agree. I mean, it's my thing is, it's not so much it's like what everyone always says about The Walking Dead. It's like, oh, you know, it's not the zombies that are scary, it's the people out there. But for me, it's what gets it under my skin is myself, and the idea that you can't escape yourself. You can't escape the mind. And we talked a lot about this with N, but there's nothing scarier than watching or reading, in this case, someone trying to outwit and escape their own mind. You can't. Mm-hmm. It's going to keep chasing you. Yeah. And that's when the claustrophobia sets in. And honestly, King is so fucking good at building those walls around his characters, and you feel those walls come in. And so I think that's one of the strongest suits of at least this story. I'm very excited to see the other ones, because if they kind of match the level of intensity of this one, then we're looking at an all-timer book here for me.
I think this one is, like you said, I think claustrophobia is a good way to describe it, despite the fact that it takes place on a pretty big farm. Mm-hmm. But you still feel like the walls are closing in.
100%. Yeah.
Here's a mixed review from Mr. Ed Siegel, and I'll just preface this by saying, when we get to the end, I think you'll find that this is literally, he's criticizing everything that King doesn't care about. So here we go. No shots. It's well written. Don't get me wrong. It's well written. Ed Siegel for the Boston Globe. I can't believe it. His old neck of the woods. Boston Globe turning on King in this. Can't believe it. It's a mixed review, not a straight up pan. Ed Siegel writes, they're all accomplished pieces of genre thriller writing. Each of the novellas deals to some degree with characters who are seeming Dr. Jekyll's on the surface, but deep within hides Hyde. That's a good use of alliteration there. A monster who would as soon take a carving knife to you as shake your hand. Only problem is that this might be one of the more artful pieces of deflection by someone who has been substituting unbelievable human behavior for the way people really act for much of his career. Which is what has made him more entertainer than artist. It's all good genre stuff, but it doesn't find that middle ground between literary writing, which King eschews, and shining light on the world.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Why? So I think he wanted these to be lighter. Is that what I'm getting from that?
He didn't want it to be full dark.
Yeah. He wanted it to be somewhat dark, no stars.
Yeah, he should go back to just after sunset then.
That's right. Yeah. Beautiful sunsets.
Yeah, I think it sounds like he was just saying maybe there's no redemption Maybe he feels
And
like there's
like
no redemption and he doesn't like that. It doesn't bother me. Real world, there's not redemption. You don't always get revenge. And you don't always get... Your dreams don't always come true. So it doesn't bother me that there's no, in the end, like there's no... You don't expect a happy ending, for sure. But even in the books or the stories in this collection where the protagonist does succeed in some way, in the end, you're sort of like, for what?
That's a good point too. I mean, Mike, do you see where Ed Siegel's coming from? But can you also see how King would never be able to write something successful in his eyes, maybe fully?
That's exactly it. Because it's the way that he wants his story told. And it's kind of goes back to what the quote I was saying before from the afterword, where it's like, King doesn't want to make you think while you're reading the story. This guy certainly wants that in his storytelling, and for that I say, go read Absalom, or, As I Lay Dying.
Great Ella Faulkner. I love that story.
I know. But I'm just saying, like, you want to go for that, go for it. But like, the thing I love about King so much is exactly what he set out to do with all of his works, is that he puts story first. And I don't know, I'm more for that. I'm not necessarily needing to have these sort of philosophical debates as I'm reading. I don't need to read a story about guilt and think about think of it like I'm reading modern rhetoric or Derrida or something like that. Like
My Mother Was a Fish,
Yeah. So I don't know. I think you're right in the sense that he was kind of, this is always gonna be a fail in his eyes, So.
Well, let's get more into 1922 itself. So here's something I'd like to read about that. A reader asks, in the story 1922, did you do extensive research about that period, and in particular about farmers in the Midwest? King answered, I did a little bit of both. I did some research when I needed to, and this is when I reached out to you, Ashley, to ask if you had what the original inspiration for 1922 was, which is a book called Wisconsin Death Trip. And King says he's kept pictures from that book in his mind. Quote, I had done previous research and made some previous trips to Nebraska. I love it out there in the big empty. So I got some background to start with, and I have a tendency to just kind of wing it in terms of imagination. So I'll give a brief history lesson on Wisconsin Death Trip, which could easily become a future episode for one of our podcasts. It's actually the 50th anniversary this year, and there's a piece that ran in the New York Times, and this is from that. Quote, Michael Lessie's 1973 book is an American oddity, a cult classic for a reason, in a way that few documentary texts do. It makes us leave the baggage of modernity, of modernity. I almost said Moderna. Was this Holly? It makes us leave the baggage of modernity at the trailhead. It forces us back into the inconceivably long nights in rural and small-town America before the widespread use of electricity, before radio, before antibiotics for dying children, and antidepressants for anxiety bordering on mania. When events could make a family feel that some nocturnal beast had shocked its door. The book is a portrait of Black River Falls, Wisconsin at the turn of the 20th century, which is when obviously 1922 takes place. Lessie's method was to blend workaday photographs with horrific local news items that point page by page towards spiritual catastrophe. Nearly every person in it looks as if they are about to be struck by lightning. End quote. I got to read this book.
Yeah.
And I think it's available for like $30 online. I need to read this book. I'm the depraved individual. But what do you think about this? Does this intrigue the two of you? Is a real question. Ashley, what do you think about this?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I read the Wikipedia article on this book today, and I don't know exactly what happens in it. But the fact that it's about just like a bunch of horrific shit happening in succession in this random time in this random place in America, like totally I'm gonna read that. Like that reminds me of like Phantoms or Roanoke, you know, like Croatoa, like where it's like just how sometimes just bad shit happens somewhere, and it's that creepy feeling. And like I said, I don't know what happens. Like I'm obviously expecting like some paranormal element to
Same.
exist.
That's the first thing I thought of.
But like, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just like, hey, life was really fucking hard in the 1920s, and it's like, yeah, no shit.
It's amazing that we're far enough away now, because I think we were, even when we were younger, not just our parents, but when we would think about the before times. Now when we think about the before times, there are actually pictures of these people who lived in the before times. You know what I mean? It's not like it's some far off unbelievable place that we can't picture.
Yeah, it's not
they're
like
literally
ancient
pictures,
Egypt.
right?
Yeah, and not a smile to be seen.
No,
it is.
Stay still for 20, however long it took to take those pictures back then. But
incredibly influential book, though.
Absolutely.
Neil Gaiman actually has a piece about Full Dark No Stars, and he talked about how Wisconsin Death Trip was a book that I sometimes imagine must have inspired as many books as it has sold.
Wow.
And you look back at all the folks that are certainly indebted to it. There's a great section about the legacy here. And he even talks about it. Like Gaiman is the one that says that it was hugely influential in him, and it led to American Gods. So
wow,
I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah. So it's
I think this is gonna be a Patreon episode down the line
someday.
100%. I think Sammy Kuykendall might be into this story too. I think
100%. Yeah.
Sammy Kuykendall is also from this podcast. But anyway, listen. In 1922, rats play a strong role in the story. Why rats?
Why not?
And Stephen King, he writes, I've written about rats before in Graveyard Shift. Why rats? Because rats are nasty. Rats are scary. I write about things that scare me the most. And when people ask me what scares you, they expect some sort of big existential answer like death, or the idea that there's no afterlife, or possibly that there is an afterlife. But really the things that scare me are the things that scare most people, I think. Waking up in the night, finding out that your bed is full of spiders, for instance, or one of my favorite scenes, 1922, this is what King said, is when Will reaches up onto the top shelf of a closet to get his wife's hat box, and there's a big rat crouched on top of it and bites him. And I just thought, ugh, that's awful. That's got to go in the book. And the rat would show again in the more recent collection. This is from me. This is from Justin Gerber, folks. Very, I'm up to date on my King. A rat would, of course, show up again in the more recent collection in the novella titled Rat. Question to you two: if this was you writing it, and you went from his method of writing, and you were to choose an animal or a creature that terrifies you the most instead of a rat, what would you choose, Mike? What do you think would be the thing that would terrify you the most in this type of a story?
I mean, rats come close. I mean, they don't eat, they don't sleep, they don't feed, they don't
I'd like to
breathe.
apologize for the rat lovers out there.
So
please address Mike on social media. I'm not on Twitter.
I personally would probably pick spiders, just because they're a little harder to find, and I think that makes them that much more unnerving when it's like, well, they could be under my pillow, they could be under there, or in the case of the X-Files, it could be like a bee where it just hides under your lapel for about 3 days. But I would say, I don't know, rats are pretty good. I mean, that's just because the idea of a rat biting you is already enough of the visual element of it is terrifying. But what I think I love about the metaphorical implications of rats is that it's what they give you that's going to stick with you. And that's kind of like the guilt and the pain and the turmoil that Wilfred's going to be going through. And so metaphorically, it makes a lot of sense. Although I guess you could make the same metaphor with the spider and poison. But anyway, I think rats do.
We'll go with it.
Yeah.
It plays well. It plays. What about you, Ashley?
Probably bugs.
Just bugs.
Roaches.
Yeah.
Creep show ruined me. Like, if I see one cockroach, I get pretty skeeved out. Because you can't stop imagining that they're everywhere. Because if you see one cockroach, then there's 100 that you can't see, and you don't know where they are. And pretty soon they're going to crawl into you and out of your body, just like in Creepshow. And it's going to. I actually was rewatching the 100 Greatest Horror Movie Scares Bravo 2004 special. They have it on YouTube. Shout out again to youtube.com. And they were talking about that particular short and Creepshow, and how even during the filming of that, like Tom Savini, George Romero, and Stephen King were like, ooh. So it's just funny to think of these, like, the masters of horror, Tom Savini, been to Vietnam and back, and he's still like, no bugs, no thank you.
Yeah, I think when you're writing this stuff, if it doesn't work on you, you're not going to be able to sell it.
Yeah.
Right? But I think because he is so terrified of rats, no problem selling it to me.
Seriously.
They're so smart, too, which is even worse, you know? They're so smart. Oh, God.
Well,
rats.
you think of like rats and roaches and even spiders, like that is an infestation. It's not like where there's one, there's many. So it's not going to be just one rat. You're going to have rats.
Well, I'll tell you what else about these rats. These things are carrying plagues all the time.
What I mean.
Get out of here. Get them out of here. We don't have technology to live without rats.
That's why we need witches and their black cats.
I got rat signs down the street here in my neighborhood. My God, get rid of these things. I kid. I love rats. Here's something I found interesting, though. Now, this, of course, is from 13 years ago, so maybe he's changed his mind. But on analyzing stories, King says, I don't like to cut them up and see what makes them work.
God.
I think that's for English teachers and biologists. Uncle Steve, if you're listening, I'm assuming you've changed your mind a little bit on that front. But what can I say? I do like to dissect some of the art we love and figure out what does make him work. I think. Do
you think King's a rat kid? You know, had a rat. I know Harrison Ford was a rat kid. He had a rat.
There's no way King. No, King's anti-rat. He's out. He's a hard out. He's a hard out. There's no way he had rats growing up.
I was a reptile kid. I had a snake and a scorpion.
Tell me about having a snake. Because I had a roommate that had a snake.
They're lovely.
What?
Yeah,
they're really lovely.
Him getting out.
Oh, he did get out. Actually, one time I was sleeping on the couch that was next to the snake cage, and I actually had a dream that he was crawling all over me. And when I woke up, he wasn't in his cage. So I eventually found him. God. He had like curled up behind the VCR because the Hawaii was like really warm back there. But it wasn't until I like realized he had gotten out and found him that I was like, he was crawling on me, and I dreamt about it.
Oh my God.
Okay, we're going to move on before I throw myself off the third floor of my apartment. That is my nightmare right there, by the way. You lived my nightmare. And you didn't care.
Didn't even care,
you.
Yeah. That's the fun thing about fear. Well, see, I wouldn't be afraid of a snake infestation. I just, there's a difference.
If I read the newspaper that said, bad news, everybody, snakes have taken over. I mean, I'm looking for the nearest something. The nearest implement to stop my life from
let's
happening.
just say the snakes did take over in 2016. You know what I'm saying?
Hey.
Wow, really real deep, transparent. Agreed. But,
yeah.
All joking aside. Bryant, again, our archivist Bryant Burnett also sent a very fun short video from King answering why people don't read short stories anymore. And here's the long and short of it. I'll just say this. This is a quote. People have forgotten how, even now, he kind of pauses. He says, even now I find myself not wanting to say what I really believe, which is that people are too goddamn lazy to bother anymore to pick up a book or a magazine when you're required to start over and over and over again. End quote. He also tosses in a shot at American Idol while he's at it. Mike, I want to ask you this because I think you've reached a point over these 6 years and God knows how many novels and collections where you tend to favor King's short story or novella collections over his novels. Do you see where he's coming from, though, regarding the general population and why do we think that is?
We talked about this in the Just After Sunset episode because we were talking. I was trying to make the argument that like in a binge culture, I would have thought this would be more successful,
right?
And we were talking about that very thing that King mentions, where it's just the starting over and over again. Like one of the reasons why, and this is something we discussed, was that binge culture works so well is because people love familiarity. They're like, oh, well, I get to see my characters, I get to see my town or wherever the fuck it's set. If I'm watching Battlestar Galactica, we're not really in a town. You know what I mean?
Hey.
But I think that familiarity is one of the reasons why people love binging, and I think probably why they like novels, and I think even more to that point, why the more successful things out there today are like series of novels. Like, like the big YA boom right now, or even just the big book talk boom is really about series, right? So, but for me, what I think works really well is that, I think when I think of Stephen King, obviously we think of horror. I know that his dramatic tendencies are certainly one of his strongest suits. I've said that since the beginning of this podcast. Having said that, when I think of Stephen King, I'm still thinking of, I want to get scared. I want to be taken to a place where I'm going to get scared. And what do I love the most? I like getting new scares. I like having the sort of, oh, what's going to happen in this one? What's going to happen in that one? And I think at its core, the reason why I came to King from the get-go was for that very reason. So I think being able to swallow one story after another, and especially since he's really good at that, I think the singularity of his stories comes through really well in a lot of these short stories. I think he's an idea guy. He's a guy that comes up with something and he decides whether or not he wants to make it a novel, a novella, or a short story. And you can tell based on the amount of short story collections he has, these ideas are always out there. And that's the reason why he has so many good stories out there. And so I just think Jack, this is a long-winded way of saying I like the short stories, but I think to his, I'm taking what he was saying as a burden on everyone having I got to start over again. I just find that really refreshing. And not only do you get other scares, but some of his best dramatic works are short stories.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think in that sense, you get the full gamut of what King can offer. And sometimes in bite-sized quantities. And look, this is spooky season, and I've got several bite-sized candies. I've already gone through 3 since the start of this episode. And I got to say, much would have rather had that than a large fucking 3 Musketeers or Snickers bar. So,
Well, Ashley and I are going to go to the beach. It's 95 degrees outside, so spooky season. Watch out! I got my sunscreen on. My spooky sunscreen. Yeah. Ashley, what about you? When it comes to the short stories, and I am also confused like Mike, where you figure that in this, and allow me to be the old man in the episode, the TikTok generation, we gotta get a bite-sized entertainment somewhere. You would think that people would have the attention span and maybe even prefer a short story, but do you get where he's coming from in terms of somehow being lazy and almost wanting more?
Yeah, totally.
Like
what Mike was saying about how, the reason that binging your favorite shows is so satisfying is that you're constantly, coming back to these same characters and following the same storyline and da-da-da-da-da. And it's not like, Black Mirror, for example, you don't binge a season of Black Mirror. You watch an episode here and there, and sometimes you never make it back to the show because there were 2 episodes in a row that were stinkers, and now
let me
you're
guess,
not
they
back.
ended with it turned out there was a chip in somebody's head.
My dog was a cell phone. Yeah, so and I think it's the same. I struggle with short story collections. I don't think I've finished. Except for King, aside from Stephen King, I don't think I've ever finished a short story collection. I have several short story collections in my house, and you can find a bookmark in all of them because it is easy to kind of put down and then go do another thing and then kind of always forget about it. So eventually you stop buying the short story collections because you never finish them, and there's a ton of short stories here that I could read and not buy another book.
I agree with King. I think people are much more likely, if they're going to read something, that they're going to read a longer story than they are short stories. But I think that the point that he might be missing, though, is that it is also possible that people like to live in these worlds.
Yeah. It's hard to transport yourself,
in
a short story. Novellas are great. I think that that's the perfect medium. A novella is awesome. You could tell a really well fleshed out story. And especially something like this where it's a collection of 4, that rules. But yeah, short story collections can be really hard.
Well, I'm a real literary guy. I can read I can appreciate a novel just as much as I can appreciate a good short story collection. But that's just me. What can I tell you? I do think about George Saunders, who's much more famous for his short story collections than his full-length stories. But I read Lincoln at the Bardo by him that came out a couple of years ago. One of my favorite books, especially of the last 10 years. And then I went back to read his short story collections, which were good, but like you, Ashley, they weren't page turners.
Yeah.
But having said that, I'm like a walking contradiction here because Night Shift is one of my favorite short story collections. I could start reading that tomorrow and probably not pick up anything else until I'm done with that collection. So it just depends on how the stories are compiled, maybe sometimes too. I think you have to look at it that way, right? How they're cultivated and processed. But this has been an episode on what's the deal with short stories.
What's the deal?
But
Hope
it
you
is,
enjoyed that.
but the thing is, like, I am fascinated by this because I don't want it to become this antiquated medium. And like, you know, out of all the books, and we talked about this in the Hollywood King episode or the mini I can't even remember. We've done so many fucking episodes the last 2 months, but whatever episodes, something recent. I think it was right. But I think, you know, when he announced all these other books that he's doing, like, I just got so excited that we were right in terms of ascertaining, like, when, we're due for another short story collection. And and again, it's just because he's so good at variety. Like, it really just goes back to the fact that this is an ideas guy, and I love ideas guys. Like, I think that if, especially the ideas guys that can pull it off, and he can. And I think as I've really gleaned over the years is that when he gets a short runway, he just runs with it. And like, I think that's a real talent. One of my big theories, and I've been leaning on this for a while now, is, you know, we all grew up with anthology storytelling or anthological storytelling. And I think that was kind of like, there was like a bread and butter for a while. I mean, it's funny because we're recording this like a day after the Goosebumps first look came out. And I've been reading a lot of comment sections for like the new Goosebumps TV series that's going to be on Disney. And everyone's bemoaning the fact that, like, why isn't it just an anthology series? Like, why does it have to be this long form narrative as opposed to what we love about the series? And I think there's a reason. I think that it's just, I think it's a lot harder for the generations that are in vogue in writing today and in the writer's room and out in the streets, you know, protesting right now. I think it's a lot harder than to do the anthological storytelling because they didn't really grow up with that being the only model. I mean, like someone like King, someone like Matheson. I mean, King grew up on Matheson, and Matheson grew up writing for the Twilight Zone. And these are stories that you had 20 minutes to tell a fucking awesome story. You had to cut your teeth by pitching to magazines and writing a certain length. I just think nowadays God, I sound like such an old man, but like nowadays where you could just kind of write and self-publish, whatever.
You sound like an old man. It makes sense to me. Okay, let's go back in time. I don't want to use the general word of we, but let's just say we. When we were younger, we grew up on the Christopher Pike books, or even like some like Fear Street, Goosebumps. These relatively short. They're novels, I guess, but they're short stories essentially, right? They're like extended short stories, maybe novellas. But the generation that grew up in the 90s and the aughts, they grew up not just on these big books like the Harry Potter books, the Hunger Games books, Twilight, but series of books because they want to live in these worlds. They didn't. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they've got their little collections too, but it just wasn't the same as what we were given when we were in elementary school, middle school, and whatnot.
Well, I think that
also might play a part in the conditioning.
Shows like American Horror Story can find such a large audience is because even though it is sort of anthology-esque, you still have all your same actors returning every season. Who are they going to play this time? You know what I mean? It still almost feels like, and, you know, they connect the seasons to each other. So it still feels like you're experiencing this massive world when, you know, it is an anthology. And I think that's why American Horror Stories is not doing as well.
Well, by all accounts, the OG is coming back. I think I saw a trailer for it the other day.
Yeah.
But that's there for everybody else. Well, folks, you know, when I'm at the library, I like to go check out the fiction section, the nonfiction section, you know, I can check out my old sports books, my film and TV books. There's another great section at the library, and I'd like the two of you to come with me. It's one of my favorite sections when I go to our local library here. It's the structure and format section.
Oh, my God.
Look at me. Look at me, teacher. Look.
This will be incredibly easy to discuss because there's nothing to discuss. This is literally the structure and format of this book. You can't debate it. Here it is. It's a letter from somebody named Wilfred James, Full Wolf, in 1930 confessing to the 1922 murder of his wife and what transpired and the years that followed. Right? That's it. That's literally the structure and format of the story. But I do want to talk about this a little bit. The pros and cons of first person. And the question based on that is, do either of you think that this story would work as well if it was written, omnisciently or otherwise with multiple people telling the tale? Do you think it would work as well as it does in first person letter format? Ashley?
No, I don't. I think you could still tell this story in a different narrative that wasn't first person and it wasn't. But I think in order to get the same effect and in order to get sort of the same messages that are so strong in this, it has to be told the way that it is, first person, from Big Wilf,
full Wilf,
Big Wilfy style.
Mike, what about you? Is there any other way that this could have worked after you were finished reading it?
Sure. I think, when you think about just the beginning and middle and the end of this, it's a solid story, and you could certainly confirm things by having an omniscient narrator, but I think you lose a lot of the fun. And I mean, I say fun, and the most fun you could have killing your wife to Crip from the Creep Show tagline. But I think the point of view is really what separates this from just being oh, hey, look, it's this guy killing his wife and being haunted by it. Like, being in Wilfred's head is so crucial for what makes this story work. So, I think in that sense, I don't know. You can, but it's lesser than.
Well, I'll do this comp, which I think everybody saw coming. I just read Motley Crue's The Dirt for the first time. By the way, which if the two of you have this, Mike, have you read this? Actually?
I've read it. It's great. Yeah.
Ashley, have you read The Dirt?
No, but one of my friends is married to Tommy Lee.
Okay,
wait, what?
We're going to put a pin in that. And we're going to discuss that in our upcoming episode on Wisconsin Death Trip and the fact that you fell asleep and the snakes crawl all over you.
Yeah.
But anyway, a lot of revelations this episode.
Yeah, I read The Dirt for the first time. My mind is literally blown right now. I'm trying to read this. So I read this for the first time a couple weeks ago, literally leading into 1922. And I was reminded that while that book is written by people who are both in Motley Crue and associated with the band in first person, that any autobiography you read is fictionalized somehow. Not wholly, but either intentionally or through a willful ignorance in a lot of cases.
Well,
right?
what's the quote? There's the my story, your story, and the truth.
And the truth, yes. And in autobiographies, the truth becomes fast and loose after a while.
Yeah.
And I think that is why this story works so well, because there is such a conflict about what is happening, what is not happening, what does he think is happening, and to add to the fun, what does he know is not happening, but is telling us happened? Like, there's just so many directions you can go with who we know this person is. I'm also kind of reminded of, let's just stay on our pop culture circuit here, the Eagles documentary, History of the Eagles, in which the Eagles are interviewed, talking right to the camera. And while they're trying to present themselves as being these cool guys, they absolutely come off as assholes. Rest in peace, Glenn Frey. But I got a lot of that vibe during this book, too, where he's trying to confess to these things and try to explain why these things happened, but he's not selling us for any good reasoning. But we'll get into that in our section on Full Wilf later on. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah,
please.
so I think the truth is certainly important. It's definitely a piece of the puzzle here. I think that's, obviously truth is a fuel for everything in life. That was deep.
What's out
Mike.
there?
But for me, it's the real curveball of the story is just the madness. It's just how much you can carry. And I think that the only way to tell that story is in first person. I just don't think it works. Could you just imagine this story being told with a narrator being like, "Oh, he was so distraught and he kept hearing the rats," and it would just be like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, it would be so maudlin. Like,
Well, Mike, let me cut you off here. What if they had done it on that point, like Christine? And, you're going back and forth. You're following Wilf for a while with his story.
Yeah.
You're following Henry for a while. And then the twist, you're following Arnett, and
you're following the rats.
and then you're following the rats just
P-
like you follow
rat
some of the
POV.
dogs in the stand.
Yeah.
And I just think that the structure of this is, full dark, pitch perfect, whatever you want to call it. I think this is the way to tell this particular story. And
Well, and technically, you have a narrator that isn't necessarily trustworthy.
you are correct on that.
So
and I
you
think
have
that,
to
Ashley,
do it in first person. If
we're going to have to discuss that. I've enjoyed the structure and format section of this library, but I'm going to give us all, we got to get out of here, so I got to give us all the hook.
Ah. Yes. Don't you see? Don't you see how clear it all is? Not only can you see the future, I can change it. You can change it, exactly.
Okay. So once again, the hook of this story is, it's not as simple as you might think it is when you read the pitch or the plot. But let me just read this. This is, I do love a story that once again does all the work for us. This is literally the first paragraph of 1922, and this sets the whole thing up. This is from Wilf's 1930 letter. Quote, "The issue that led to my crime and damnation was 100 acres of good land in Hemingford Home, Nebraska." Ah, sounds familiar. "It was willed to my wife by John Henry Winters, her father. I wished to add this land to our freehold farm, which in 1922 totaled 80 acres. My wife, who never took to the farming life, or to being a farmer's wife, wished to sell it to the Farrington Company for cash money. When I asked her if she truly wanted to live downwind from a Farrington's hog butchery, she told me we could sell up the farm as well as her father's acreage, my father's farm, and his before him. When I asked her what we might do with money and no land, she said we could move to Omaha or even St. Louis and open a shop." And then later on, in quote, by the way, everybody. Later on, she suggested they just sell the land and Wilford's farm, quote, "split the money, divorce, and start new lives apart from each other," end quote, with her taking their son, Henry. If she is gone from the picture in 7 years, Wilford can declare her dead and inherit the land she inherited from her father. And then the story is, it's the telltale heart and it becomes the telltale rats. Right?
That's 100%. Yeah.
Or is it more supernatural? Because Wilford even announces early on that this is a ghost story. But is it a ghost story? So, Mike, kick off. What are the pros and cons? Is it a ghost story, or is this all coming from the mind of a possibly rabid mind at a certain point?
Well, this is why I love the point of view here, because if this was told third person, or third person omniscient, I think that I would lean onto the if King hints that it is, it's got to be true. Where you can't really make that argument here. And I do like the fact that you can see it either way. I personally like to see it as the actual ghost coming through because I like the supernatural qualities. I like the image of the shuffling corpses walking to him at the end, the imagery of her actually coming into the house when he's there alone and frozen. But you can have it either way. It's kind of like Burger King.
I've got some examples
you'd have it your way.
of this, but Ashley, what do you think first off, though? What do you think?
I
You
think it
this
is a ghost story.
Or is it more complicated than
Well, being haunted is a very specific experience. And you can be haunted by your past. You can be haunted by guilt. You can also be haunted by your murdered wife. And all of these can happen simultaneously, for sure. And I thought...
You've absolutely stolen my final thoughts, which I'm going to keep later on. I'm not ripping off Ashley. Continue.
Well, I think it was summed up really perfectly by this line, and I'm sorry I don't know the page because I listened to the audiobook, but this happened this is what he said right after he found out the fate of Henry and Shannon. He was looking at the photos of them as the sweetheart bandits in the paper, and he was talking about how painful it was to look at their young faces, and he says, quote, "There's more than one way to be bitten by rats, isn't there?" And I think that really sums up everything in that, he's being haunted.
One way or the other. Okay. I've got some
metaphorical
ghosts,
real ghosts.
Which I'll be ripping off in my final thoughts. So on the rat that bites him, right, which he insists, is the same rat. This is the quote from that. "It wasn't the same rat that escaped into the pipe, I hear you saying. You, the reader. It couldn't have been. But it was. I tell you it was. There was no..." But then Here we go. There was no identifying mark, no white patch or fur, or conveniently memorable chewed ear, but I knew it was the one that had savaged. Is Aeolus the cow?
The cow.
I'm butchering this. I missed my class in Greece. I'm sorry, my Greek class. We'll call it Aeolus. How about that? Just as I knew it hadn't been crouched up there by accident. So I love what King does here and throughout the rest of this is, like you said, Mike, if this was third person or omniscient or whatever you want to call it, you could just come to the deduction that the narrator knows best. Mm-hmm. But Ashley, the unreliable narrator, makes this much more fun. Yeah. Another quote, and this is when I'm starting to kind of doubt him a little bit. The ceiling overhead was discolored and dripping. The plaster hadn't started to bulge yet, but if the rain continued, it would. It might even dissolve and come down in chunks. The leak was above my special reading place. Of course it was. The rest of the ceiling looked fine, at least so far. I thought of Stoppenhauser saying, Stoppenhauser, of course, is the person who works at the bank. Schmuck. Do you want to tell me there aren't improvements you could make, a roof to fix? And that sly look, as if he had known, as if he and Arlette were in on it together. So he's already kind of going down that road of paranoia, right? I think the 1922 is catching up to him.
Yeah.
Later on, again, on that rat attack. It wasn't the same rat, I told myself. The one that bit Aeolus is either lying dead in the pipe or in Arlette's lap. But I knew it was. I knew it then, and I know it now. It was. So now he's convincing himself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
At this point in the letter, right? He's convincing himself. And actually, this might be connected to your rat quote from earlier, or statement from earlier. But this is on what happened to his son. I wrote to people who met my son and his pregnant girlfriend on their short, disastrous course from Nebraska to Nevada. Most of those people wrote back, willing enough to supply details. That sort of investigative work makes sense and no doubt satisfied you as in the reader. But those investigations came years later, after I left the farm, and only confirmed what I already knew. Already, you ask? And I answer simply, yes, already. And I knew it not just as it happened, but at least part of it before it happened. The last part of it. How? The answer is simple. My dead wife told me. You disbelieve, of course. I understand that. Any rational person would. All I can do is reiterate that this is my confession, my last words on earth, and I put nothing in it I don't know to be true. I put nothing in it I don't know to be true. Mm-hmm.
This is my confession.
Yeah. So that, and we can analyze that last part is for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. Well, that is true. He did know about the fate of his. Well, he says that he did.
Because remember, this is all written so postscript.
That's
so
true. It's like the Bible.
Yeah.
I think
it's like
a lot
we prophesize the Son of God is coming because he did.
I think a lot of it is jumbled up in a memory of a fever dream.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to really recall a fever dream. When telling of how Henry and Shan escaped from where she was put up, they had time to exchange a single kiss. Arlette didn't say so, but I still have my imagination. And then Henry pointed to Ford West. So he's already kind of intimating, King, is that this could just be based on what he heard over the last 7 years, right? He's lost his mind. This is quite damning. Speaking of prophecy, Ashley. The police west of the Rockies had their descriptions and were on the lookout. I had been bitten by the rat hiding in the closet, I think, or was about to be. Arlette told me they were dead, but they weren't. Not when she and Aurora Court came to visit me, that was. She either lied or prophesied. To me, they are both the same. I mean,
okay.
Interesting. And then maybe the most damning in terms of what you were saying, Mike, about his sanity when he's leaving the bank. Where that rat? I cried and pointed.
Yeah.
The young teller voiced a little scream, looked up, then exchanged a glance with her older counterpart. There was no rat. Only the passing shadow of the ceiling fan, and now everyone was looking at me. As in, me, full Wilf, not the conniving man.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of deflection, projection, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I think that
I think it's so well written. I love this Spoiler alert, I really love the fuck out of this novella. But anyway, sorry,
Same.
Ashley, go ahead.
I was going to say, without the corroboration of other characters in the story, we have to take his word as the truth, which is what makes the haunting so terrifying. But there are times throughout, like you said, where he makes references to seeing rats that others don't see, but he always justifies it. Like when he was working in the factory, his coworkers claimed they didn't see the rats, but he said it was probably because they didn't want the factory to shut down. So again, the
There's
narrator
right?
makes us believe what he believes, or at least makes us sort of go like, oh yeah, they wouldn't say that they saw the rats.
Mike?
You know what this reminds me of? A book that I just mentioned earlier.
As I Lay Dying.
Well, yeah. It was American Psycho. I mean, it's the whole, did he or didn't he? And there's so many, again, it's like, there's so much evidence to both sides, and I think that's what makes it so much more intriguing is
same,
because
there are sometimes that people do unreliable narrators and they don't do it well, and they do it in a way that's like, well, what's the fucking point? Why did I even fucking write that?
As though the author himself or herself doesn't have the answer to begin with.
Yeah,
that always ticks me off.
Well, I think the letter at the end of the novel, the novellas, is what makes it. Because without that, you too would be lost. You wouldn't know.
Yeah, I would agree. And there's something to be said about that letter that once again, so for me as a skeptic, of course, I'm like, oh, he's just out of his mind. But I'm thinking, well, maybe the rats did eat him and they disappeared and they were ghost rats. I don't know. It's still not definitive for me. And I do love, no matter how you lean, I think it's hard to say it's definitive one way or the other. And that's what I love about the story.
Because I guess if he did get bitten, or maybe let's just say, let's play devil's advocate.
They're ghost rats. They're ghost rats, right?
Well, let's say the first bite that makes him lose his hand.
Yeah.
Is it that could it be that he bit his hand there and then it went gangrene from that?
Dude, it could have been anything. He was living with a cow and like living in a like he had
the walls had collapsed.
I never saw him shower.
Just a nightmare.
Not once.
Not a one.
Not once, this guy. All right, well, this has been a lot of fun in the hook, but I think, not that we haven't been talking about Wilfred Leland James this entire book, but this entire podcast, but let's go officially to our section called Heroes and Villains.
I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown. Welcome to the Losers Club, asshole!
All right, not a lot of heroes and villains in this. Really not a lot of heroes, if I'm being totally honest with you, but we got to talk a little bit more about Wilf. The first thing I have here is what you mentioned earlier, Ashley, is I believe there was another man inside of every man, a stranger, a conniving man. And Wilf, regardless of what you think about his truth-telling or delusions, he is incredibly smooth-talking. He's like Mr. Gaslight, he's very smooth with the Farrington lawyer regarding his wife's disappearance. His concern for his missing son evaporates when he realizes he's able to use this to once again cover for himself. When Sheriff Jones visits, quote, "The idea he'd given me was looking better and better, and it was almost time to spring it." And then he suggests that Henry, quote, "went looking for his mother. I think she may have gotten in touch with him." Mike, where do you rank this guy? Once again, I love these huge questions I'm giving you, but where would you rate this guy in terms of the scummiest narrator of a King story? He's got to be pretty high up there.
He is pretty high up there because in addition to just being stubborn, he's also incredibly hypocritical. This is a guy that's literally talking about just blaming his wife for his situation, even though he killed her, and yet then has the audacity to then go off on the neighbor's wife, saying, "Oh, that's what's the line where he talks about the wives basically like, oh, women like that, they're gonna." God damn it! What's the fucking quote? It's
You talking about from the sheriff, Mike?
No, it's his neighbor's wife. Where it's just like
Shannon's mom.
This is. He says, "What if?" He goes, "The wife whose sweetly given reply in the face of any problem would be, 'Whatever you think is best, dear. Women, take note. A wife like that never needs to fear bubbling away the last of her life through a cut throat.'" And it's just like, wait a second, that's what you want. like so now you're criticizing your neighbor's wife, and yet that's literally what you've been criticizing your own wife about. So it's just like he's all over the place. And like, again, that's what makes him complex and makes him fun, but he's still he's a schmuck. Yeah.
Well, I mean, on top of that, in terms of the behaviors of the people who encounter him, Ashley, for instance. Okay, Ashley. Think about this. So he's very smooth talking, but then we really find out who really cares about Arlette, right? It's not Wilfred. You could argue maybe Henry at some point until he was destroyed by his father.
Yeah.
But I feel like the world around them, even the people that they encounter, are much more interested in themselves. Or even as the sheriff says at one point, he says we can find her and drag her back.
Yeah.
So she's also kind of been doomed from the start, no matter how much property she owns, right? She's a doomed character.
She is. And like, we do get, and again, unreliable narrator, I don't know, but he claims that Henry references this too. Like, we do get the moment where she's drunk and really kind of crossing several lines with her son, and like, but other than that, like, she wasn't asking for much. She didn't want to live on a farm. She wasn't a farm. You know what I mean? Like, and he had it in his head that, like, well, he didn't want his 8 acres. He wanted 18 acres, and he didn't want to live next to a slaughterhouse because the water will be contaminated. He's kind of like those people who, like, to this day are just so adamant about keeping oil involved. Like, we can't do it without oil. It's like, eventually you're gonna have to fucking give in because there's a finite amount of it. So eventually you have to change as the world changes around you, and he's just unwilling to do that. He's unwilling to live near this slaughterhouse. He's unwilling to.
And then we're like, well, why is he so steadfast in his ways? What is there some moral ground? And then Mike, we learn at the end. Let me read this quote and have you react to this. I suppose I could say that after my lost years, I made one more effort to live an actual life. There were times when I actually believed that, but lying in bed at night and listening to the rats scampering in the walls, they have been my constant companions. I always knew the truth. I was still trying to win. Even after Henry and Shannon's deaths, even after losing the farm, I was trying to beat the corpse in the well. That's all it's about. You can't let somebody else win.
Yeah, I have that exact quote. It's his true self. And honestly, he stresses that from page 7. There's that quote where he's talking about Henry. It's like, he gazed at me, troubled, dark. I hated to darken my son in such a way. Yet part of me believed then and believes still that it was not I who did it to him, but she. And it's just like, from the beginning, he's still the same. He's from the beginning and the end, same character.
Yeah.
He's trying to confess to these horrible things he did, but he's already throwing his wife under the bus or into the well, as it were.
Yeah.
Actually, you brought up Arlette, who obviously does not get painted well here. But I'm curious about your take on, I think there's 2 things going on with Arlette. I think, one, he's trying to paint her to be as bad as possible.
For sure.
Right. But 2, he knows if she gets drunk, what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
he's witnessed it before. He knows that all he has to do is supply the wine and keep pouring it down her throat, and eventually she's going to say whatever she's inevitably going to say that is going to allow Henry to be like, fine, fucking kill her.
That's right.
Jesus Christ.
He knows that he wants his son to see, for that final push, to see his mother at her absolute worst when she's literally not herself and she's under the influence. You know? And I think that's just another knock against Wilf. He's trying to paint her as this awful person, but he is deliberately enabling her and wanting her to act this way in the way that he's presenting her at the end. Mike?
One of the things I do like about this story, in addition to just everything we've already outlined, is just the context that you don't really get beaten you over the head with, is that you kind of see why Arlette hates the country life. You kind of see why she wants, if she has an opportunity to get out, she's going to get out. I mean, look at the world around her. I mentioned that I referenced, Wilfred talking about the neighbor's wife and how, you know, he's bemoaning the fact that she's just, you know, going to every will and whim that Harlan's saying. It's like, oh yeah, Harlan, you're right. But that's kind of what the patriarchy here wants. Like, I mean, when you think about it, like this whole story is built on that. Like there's a part where even Jones is saying, think it over before you say yay or nay. Sometimes a female needs talking to by hand, if you take my meaning. And after that, they're all right. A good whacking has a way of sweetening some gals up. Think it over. And then you have Harlan, who's literally dictating the future for his you know, his daughter, that sort of dictatorship leading to her inevitable demise. You just have this incredibly harsh climate to be, for anyone that's, you know, that's not a male here. And in that sense, you do understand in hindsight, just the sort of, I don't know, laissez-faire attitude that Arlette has in these final moments.
Well, and it's not like they had a successful farm.
No.
Exactly.
There's not, I mean,
the neighbor was successful.
Yeah.
The neighbor had a roof on his house, and the neighbor had, you know, he had money and he had new things. He had indoor plumbing. They didn't have fucking indoor plumbing. They didn't even have indoor plumbing. Like, of course she's going to want to move to Omaha and like have a life where maybe she could have a job. Like her kid's in school now too, and she's not having any more children. So what the fuck does she do with her time? Like, she's not asking for much. But that was the thing when we were talking about, or when we went into this section, this segment of heroes and villains. It's sort of like there's one character in this book
yeah,
that talks about all these other people.
This is all coming from him,
but I can't pass any judgment on Arlette because I don't know what their relationship was before this day in 1922. Like, obviously I think they do mention that they had a child very young. They had Henry when they were young. So obviously,
funny enough,
that's a sticky situation. And that's what got them stuck, you know, quote unquote, stuck together. But I guarantee this whole, like, I want to live a different life than this. This wasn't the first time it came up, but this was the first time that she maybe realized that, oh, I own 10 acres. And like, here's the thing. You don't want to come with me. You want to live on the farm. That's fine. But I'm going to sell this so I can have money, and I'm going to move away because I'm not happy. And he was like, well, I'm going to kill you. Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah.
You know, on top of that, and there's something I never even thought about, I never considered, because he's such an unreliable narrator, and obviously he's painting his wife as this shrewd, greedy person, even though we can kind of see through that. I never considered that it's very possible he is also, in his own way, lying about his son. Maybe he's trying to redeem his son by lying too. Maybe his son wasn't cozened being a word that Wilfred uses. Maybe he was just all for it. Or maybe he just felt bad about, or maybe Wilfred felt bad about it and is kind of rewriting his history as well. You know?
Yeah.
Well,
because they become famous. And so everybody knows them as, what was it again? The Sweetheart Bandits?
Sweetheart Bandits.
Yeah. So maybe he's trying to change his history in some way he can, even if maybe Henry doesn't deserve it. But once again, we will never truly know, right, Mike?
No one will know, because even the rats, or either the ghost rats or he himself, ate this letter that we're reading.
Ate the letter, right?
It's true. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of reason for Wilfred to basically say, all right, like, the press has got it wrong. My kid was good. Let me try to, clear it up. The one moment that I keep thinking of, and Arlette doesn't get this, but it's on page 43 when Henry basically says to Wilfred before the cop comes, like, look, I can lie, but there can't be any more killing. And Wilfred says that's something that he thinks about later on. And now, at this point in the story, we're not supposed to know what the fate is of Henry or Hank. What do you call him? Hank? Henry? We were talking about Breaking Bad a lot. Let's call Hank.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of Under the Dome, the TV show.
Yeah, let's just do it. Dean Norris.
Well, we should go with
keep saying
his
Henry.
chosen name. He wants to be called Hank, so maybe we should call him Hank.
You know, he's dead. Let's give him some.
Well, maybe he didn't want to be called Hank. Maybe it was actually just
maybe he made it
up. But I do think that moment right there, that feels like truth to me coming from Wilfred, and that seems like something that really did affect him, and probably the most truthful characteristic of anyone in this entire story, because King has a way of doing that. It's like that seed in the body, which makes its way in Stand By Me, when, sees the deer. He's like, oh, I haven't written about that. And, I haven't told anyone about that. It's just like these little moments of truth that King likes to pepper in there sometimes. And that felt like one of them, when he's like, there can't be any more killing. And then the fact that Wilfred stresses, that's something that's stuck with him. That's something that he's thought about in the days and years since. And so for me, I do think that Henry was poisoned. I do think that there was some sort of poisoning here. But as
he was a God-fearing kid too.
Yeah.
He
absolutely.
Lost God after he helped kill his mother. I mean,
well, yeah, that sequence,
he's gone.
When he talks about the prayer with his mother, like, I still do the prayers, and it's just like, that's just it's fucking great. I mean, so I do. Out of all the characters in here that could be complex beyond Wilfred, I mean, I think he clearly. It's Hank. I mean, or Henry. Or
the only time you ever really hear full Wilf talk about how like emotionally hurt he is when he's talking about his son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
Because he never and what any remorse he feels about killing his wife is always what it did to his son.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that possibly what he does write about Hank/Henry is truthful.
Well, rest in peace, Hank. I think we're going to talk about this disturbed family in many sections to come, and maybe even our next section, which is a section. Look, I'll be boring. It's about the book with Annie Wilkes. It's called Misery.
She died. She just slipped away.
Slipped away! Slipped away! She didn't just slip away! You did it! 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 You murdered my misery!
Annie!
All right, so this is the section that we talk about, passages, storytelling that we did not like in 1922. And I'll just be first. I'll be transparent. I don't have anything here.
I don't either.
Wow, none of us have anything. Michael, do you have something?
I have one thing, and it's it's me pulling my punches here, because it's
Sure.
all the literary references that King sprinkles in. They do feel a little on the nose at points. It's like, oh, of course this guy loves literature and reads and reads a ton, but at the same time, he then becomes a librarian. So it does add and lead up to somewhere.
Yeah.
But there are moments where I'm just like, all right, come on.
I there was some books mentioned. I actually did some little research into some of the books. I decided not to make any notes of them because I thought maybe they had something to do with the plot of it, but they're just famous literary works.
Yeah.
I honestly,
but that's
listening, I did not talk to Ashley or Mike about this. I figured that maybe I was going to be the only one, but I don't have anything.
Yeah, that was me reaching, because I literally was like, what the hell else am I going to put here? So,
well, wow, I don't know if this has ever happened. And that's a good thing. Obviously, I think it's a good thing but I'll tell you right now, this next section we're going to, I think we have a couple things. You hear that creaky gate? It's time to head to the cemetery.
What's the bottom of the truth?
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back. It may look like that person, but it ain't that person. Because whatever lives in the ground beyond that cemetery ain't human at all.
Okay, there is a lot here. So let's just
so much.
Let's do two apiece. Let's round robin it. So, Mike, do you want to start?
Fuck. Where do we
if you're
start?
not ready, I can start. I got some stuff here.
I got one. Okay, let's talk about on page. Well, for mine, I have the solo. the single 1922. It's not even this is so I could walk around and read also this week. This is when Elphys falls into the well. Yes, there are always worse things waiting. That's basically the addendum of what I was getting at. As I peered down, frozen with shock and revulsion, Elphys kicked out again, and one of her hoofs connected with what remained of Arlette's face. There was a snap as my wife's jaw broke, and everything below her nose shifted to the left as if on a hinge. Still, the ear-to-ear grin remained. That it was no longer aligned with her eyes made it even worse. It was as if she now had two faces to haunt me with instead of just one. Oof. That is so good.
Creepy.
Yeah.
Ashley, what do you have?
So I don't have any specific passages because, again, I listened to the audiobook and it was very good. And honestly, like, this is the perfect book to listen to on audiobook because the one thing I didn't like about Under the Dome is that the narrator has to do 100 voices. Like, it gets a little out of hand. And in this
is a oneer.
Just one guy telling a story. So it was great. But the scene that fucks me up so bad is the first time when he's woken up in the middle of the night because he hears the cows out in the barn fussing. He thinks there's a wolf because he's seen some wolves around the farm, and he goes out to check on the cows. And I believe it's what do we decide the pronunciation was?
I think it's I'm saying Achilles. Achlois. I'm literally pronouncing it Achlois. I'm that ignorant. I'm sorry. I didn't
hey, Achlois. Hey, Lois.
So he goes out, he checks, and she's the one having a fit. And he finds a rat gnawing on one of her teats.
Oh, Ashley, fear not. I've got the exact
Good. Do you have the bubble gum part?
Here we go. I'll read this for you.
God.
Quote, when she blundered into the aisle, I saw her back legs were smeared with blood. She reared up like a horse, something I never saw a cow do before. And when she did, I saw a huge Norway rat clinging to one of her teats. The weight had stretched the pink stub to a taut length of cartilage. Frozen in surprise and horror, I thought of how, as a child, Henry would sometimes pull a string of pink bubble gum from his mouth. Don't do that, Arlette would scold him. No one wants to look at what you've been chewing. Absolutely disgusting. And also, looking back, another little dig at Arlette that might not be very fair.
Yeah.
As well. Good one. Yeah, I definitely had that, as you can see.
And I believe he also, eventually, the rat runs away with the teat in its mouth like a cigar.
You tell no lie.
It was
Groucho
so
himself, the rat.
Horrific to think about. That poor cow.
I have got something here. This is about. There's so much here. I'm trying to figure out my two I want to talk about. Okay, speaking of rats. Quote, I didn't even remember that I was as naked as the day I was born. Just brought my right foot down on the rat. I heard its bones crunch and felt its guts squash. Yeah. Blood and liquefied intestines squirted from beneath its tail and doused my left ankle with warmth. It tried to twist around and bite me again. I could see its large front teeth gnashing, but it couldn't quite reach me. Not, that was, as long as I kept my foot on it. So I did. I pushed harder, holding my wounded hand against my chest, feeling the warm blood mat the thick pelt that grew there. The rat twisted and flopped. Its tail first lashed my calf, then wrapped around it like a grass snake. Blood gushed from its mouth. Its black eyes bulged like marbles. I stood there with my foot on the dying rat for a long time. It was smashed to pieces inside, its innards reduced to gruel, and still it thrashed and tried to bite. Finally, it stopped moving. Oh my God.
Jeez Louise.
Gross.
Gross.
Am I right? That's just disgusting. I mean, Mike, anything else here?
Oh, yeah.
Next one?
Well, as we know, my favorite horror story from Stephen King is Pet Sematary. And let's just say this felt like a nice little redux. A redo. Reduct? Anyway.
Either way.
Page 98. The door latch began moving. At first, it only trembled, as if the hand trying to operate it was too weak to lift it entirely clear of the notch. The movement ceased, and I had just decided I hadn't seen it at all. It was a delusion born of the fever. When it went all the way up with a little clack sound, and the door swung open in a cold breath of wind. Standing on the porch was my wife. She was still wearing her burlap snood, now flecked with snow. It must have been a slow and painful journey from what should have been her final resting place. Her face was slack with decay, the lower half slewed to one side, her grin wider than ever. It was a knowing grin. Why not? The dead understand everything. She was surrounded by her loyal court. It was they that had somehow probably gotten her out of the well. It was they that were holding her up. Without them, she would have been no more than a ghost, malevolent but helpless. But they had animated her. She was their queen. She was also their puppet. She came into the kitchen, moving with a horribly boneless gait that had nothing to do with walking. The rats scurried all around her, some looking up at her with love, some at me with hate. She swayed all the way around the kitchen, touring what had been her domain as clods fell from the skirt of her dress. There was no sign of the quilt or the counterpane, and her head bobbed and rolled on her cut throat. Once it tilted back all the way to her shoulder blades before snapping forward again with a low and fleshy smacking sound. When she at last turned her cloudy eyes on me, I backed into the corner where the woodbox stood, now almost empty. "Leave me alone," I whispered. "You aren't even here. You're in the well, and you can't get out, even if you're not dead." That whole sequence, there's a whole other page. Just
Horrifying.
that is
great.
Peak King, like just great King. Yeah,
It reminds me of
fastball he still
Octodad.
has, you know.
yeah.
Mm.
Did you guys ever play Octodad?
Octodad.
So you're
Is that a Reddit Is that a subreddit?
No, it's an online video game. I think it's online. But you are an octopus, and you're also a dad. And the whole point of the game is to not let your family in, and your family, your coworkers, everyone in on the fact that you are just an octopus. And the whole thing of the game is like there's little tasks you have to do. You have to like go in and make some eggs, but you walk like an octopus. So like your arms
Wait,
are like
are you sure this was
crazy.
in that same dream you had with the snake crawling all over you? I mean, what?
No, it's
can't be
wonderful.
real.
You
This
should
can't be
play
real.
Octodad. But like that's all I kept picturing with her was like her, like she was just jelly. She was like there were no bones, there were no joints, it was just a sack of skin being
Oh God, yeah, it's
carried around. Ugh.
I mean, that's classic King.
Yeah, it's great.
That's classic King right there.
Yeah.
Actually, do you have any other instances you can think of? I might even have a quote from it or something.
Well,
Please tell me.
I found a passage because
cool.
I
Go ahead.
kind of remembered where it was. So this reminded me of those shots in movies that are just very brief, but like you will never get them out of your head. So, for example, the head in Hereditary, or the girl in the closet in The Ring.
Yeah.
So this was the first time he sees his son at the funeral home. The bullet my son fired into his temple as he sat with Shannon's head on his lap had mushroomed as it crossed his brain and taken out a large chunk of his skull on the left side. But that wasn't the worst. His eyes were gone. His lower lip was chewed away so that his teeth jutted in a grim grin. All that remained of his nose was a red stub. Before some cop or sheriff's deputy had discovered the bodies, the rats had made a merry meal of my son and his dear love.
I have that exact same passage. I think I had yours too, Mike. I had half of your last one as well.
I mean,
what a
I have.
nightmare. I mean, that's
stuff.
first of all, that's gross. But then I can't even
That's
imagine.
your son. That's your child.
Yeah, that's
that you
just
have to see.
adding the weight.
And then he's, of course, screaming to like fix him, and they're like, "Sir, like there's nothing
What are
we
you
can
gonna do?"
This isn't an open casket." And he's like, "Fix his face."
Yeah, it's
horrible.
Such a great. I still have like 10 more. That's so crazy.
I'll do
It's
one
insane.
more, and then
Yeah.
we'll have to keep it going. But I think the murder
Yeah,
of Roulette
well,
is once again
jeez
proof that
Louise.
this is a horror story in many ways. But murder is never as easy as it seems in fiction, and this is a case of showing how not simple it is, I should say. Quote, I leaped on her like an ardent lover and drove her back down on her blood-drenched pillow. More harsh growls came from deep in her mangled throat. Her eyes trolled in their sockets, gushing tears. I wound my hand into her hair, yanked her head back, and cut her throat yet again. Then I tore the counterpane free from my side of the bed and wrapped it over her head, catching all but the first pulse from her jugular. My face had caught that spray, and hot blood now dripped from my chin, nose, and eyebrows. So think about all this. and note that their son is watching this happen.
Yeah.
Just, there's levels to this. There's levels to all of these events we've talked about. There's levels to it all. It's not just, oh, there's a ghost or, oh, somebody's being killed. There's always something else to add to that.
To ramp it
full
up.
Darkness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a lot more, but I think we've got a lot more in this next section. And it's a section that we affectionately call Word Processor of the Gods.
And we're going to make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here, you hear me typing. Whether you don't hear me typing, what the fuck you hear me doing in here, when I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. Now, do you think you can handle that?
Yeah.
Fine. Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
Okay, so these are going to be some of our favorite passages that we just thought either were beautiful or just well written, maybe a little bit of both. You're about to find out. Mike, do you have anything here for Word Processor?
Oh, ton. God, where do I want to start? I guess I'll keep it. Actually, you know what? I've been talking a lot about spooky season. I got a little quote to go for it.
Ooh.
On page 9, at least in mine, quote, "She looked at me warily. Even a single glass of wine made her eyes wet, as if part of her was weeping for all the wine it wanted and could not have. And in the sunset light, they looked orange, like the eyes of a jack-o'-lantern with a candle inside it." Good timing for that one, since it's spooky season. So I just love that line. Great stuff.
Ashley, I know it's harder to pull these out, I guess, but do you have any moments you can think of?
Yeah, I actually saved one. I went and found it today. So this I just liked because it seemed so fucking real. So this is Full Wilf packing his wife's suitcase.
Oh, yeah.
I went to the closet and studied her clothes. Women have so many, don't they? Skirts and dresses and blouses and sweaters and underthings. Some of the latter so complicated and strange a man can't even tell which side is the front. To take them all would be a mistake, because the truck was still parked in the barn and the Model T under the elm. She had left on foot and taken only what she could carry. Why hadn't she taken the T? Because I would have heard it start and stopped her going. That was believable enough, so I packed it with what I thought a woman would need and what she could not bear to leave. I put in her a few pieces of good jewelry and the gold-framed picture of her mama and papa. I debated over the toiletries in the bathroom and decided to leave everything except for her atomizer bottle of Florient perfume and her horn-backed brush. There was a testament in her night table given to her by Pastor Hawkins, but I had never seen her read it, so I left it where it was. But I took the bottle of iron pills, which she kept for her monthlies. So I just liked his picking and choosing of and the way that his mind was working through this of especially the moment where he's like, but why wouldn't she take the truck? Because I would have heard it start. Okay. And then he gets right back into planning what she would have taken with her.
And everything in that description is so period specific that kind of adds to the strength of the title. And I love rustic Stephen King.
Totally.
I love when he writes from the past, and that's just another great example. You couldn't write that in, a book that came out in 2023. No. It wouldn't make any sense, first of all.
Yeah.
There's something I want to read here, Mike, but you read a quote at the very beginning of the episode, and I don't want to redo it. Did you read Here Is Something I Learned in 1922?
I can't remember.
Well, if I did,
so,
I want you
maybe.
to cut me off immediately. You ready? I think you did.
Who cares? Just
let me read it again. It's a great fucking
go for it. Yeah.
All right. Here is something I learned in 1922. There are always worse things waiting. You think you have seen the most terrible thing, the one that coalesces all your nightmares into a... Oops, I copied this wrong. Into a freakish horror that actually exists. And the only consolation is that there can be nothing worse. Even if there is, your mind will snap at the sight of it and you will know no more. But there is worse. Your mind does not snap, and somehow you carry on. You might understand that all the joy has gone out of the world for you, that what you did has put all you hoped to gain out of your reach. You might wish you were the one who was dead, but you go on. You realize that you are in a hell of your own making, but you go on nevertheless, because there is nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
Boof.
It's terrifying.
I've got one more, but do you have another one? Or did you pull that one?
I had one more.
Okay, cool.
And it was just sort of something that I think about sometimes too, but this was towards the end of the book. And he said, Harlan Coterie, which was the neighbor, hung on until 1925 or so, and then the bank took his farm. I happened on that news while pursuing the bank sales items in the World Herald. By 1925, such items sometimes took up whole pages in the newspaper. The small farms had begun to go, and I believe that in 100 years, maybe only 75, they'll all be gone. Come 2030, if there is such a year, all Nebraska west of Omaha will be one big farm. Probably it will be owned by the Farrington Company, and those unfortunate enough to live on that land will pass their existence under dirty yellow skies and wear gas masks to keep from choking on the stench of dead hogs. And every stream will run red with the blood of slaughter. Come 2030, only the rats will be happy.
Only the rats will be happy.
Hey, we still got a few more years, though.
Yeah,
so that's good.
Well, 7 more to go, guys.
Yeah.
It's all over.
Mike, go ahead.
It's a simple line, but God, it's a great line that you could easily put in like Live Journal or AIM if you were living.
Note this down. Yeah.
Your away message.
Especially if you're an incel. But on page 5, this is a well-written line. The hate I felt toward her in that year of 1922 was greater than a man can feel for any woman unless love is a part of it. Like that is,
oof.
That's such a good line.
Sums a lot up there,
Yeah.
right? The feelings of people.
Yeah.
I thought this really struck me, and this is actually a structure thing. When the cow is dying at the end, the cow that survived that bite from all those years ago, Full Wilf says, I went outside and patted Achlois on the head. She stretched her neck up and lowed plaintively. Make it stop. You're the master. You're the god of my world, so make it stop. And I was reminded of, this is me, Justin Gerber, talking, earlier, just a couple pages earlier, when Full Wilf is apparently telling what Shan's final words are to Henry. And he says that she says, the baby is dead and I want to die too. I can't stand the pain. It's terrible. I love you, honey, but put me on the ground. I thought the similarity there was quite striking. Literally, I was really kind of moved by that passage. You know, fuck it. We didn't do the misery section, so let's just keep going. If you got anything else, just go ahead, Mike.
I got one. It's on page 19, King's Dominion. There was an echoing splash when it struck the murky water at the bottom. That splash, like thinking Ride 'em Cowboy, has been within a hand's reach of my memory for the last 8 years. I will wake up in the middle of the night with the echo in my mind and feel splinters of the stakes dig into my palms as I clutch them, holding on for dear life.
Oof.
That's the thing that I love about this story. Like Ed, he's so good at just capturing these sort of mental distresses, you know, or like stresses.
And they're punchy. They're punches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he moves on. Like he doesn't even realize what he's saying, I feel like at times, but we do. Ashley, do you have anything else?
No,
I've got
I'm
one
good.
more I'd like to.
Go ahead.
Cool. This really moved me. And this is the part of the story, as evil as Wilf is, I do hope this is really what happened. And this is like his one moment of recognition. It's when he goes to visit one of the people who were robbed by Henry and Shan. This is the quote. The pretty young teller still worked there, although her last name was no longer Penmark. And she says, when I passed him the money, he said, thank you. Maybe he went wrong, but somebody raised him right. Did you know him? No, I said, but I knew his family. I mean, that's excellent. I'm getting choked up. That is so good.
Yeah.
When you really break down, but I knew, he's not lying. He didn't really know him in the end, but he knew his family.
Well, and it's not even that he wouldn't admit that he was his father, because he admitted he was his father to other people. So that's not the meaning of that line. Yeah.
I mean, there's some other ones, but we're getting too serious here. So you know what that means. Time to pull out some good old pound cake.
After all you've been taught, everyone isn't bad, Mama. Everything isn't a sin. Come to your closet and pray. Ask to be forgiven. He's a nice boy, Mom. You like him. You really like him, Mama.
You know, I don't have too much here. I will say 2/3 of my stuff is actually from the mouth of a intoxicated
that was the only moment that I really honed in on as well for pound cake.
Yeah. Ashley, do you have something there specifically?
No, nothing specific. Just her being so lewd.
Yeah, I've got She drained her glass and held it out for more. She grasped my arm and leaned close enough for me to smell sour grapes on her breath. You may get that thing you like tonight, Wilf. She touched her purple-stained tongue to the middle of her upper lip. That nasty thing. I don't even know what that means.
What is
but,
it? What do you think it is?
Or maybe, you know what? I shouldn't king shame. Maybe it is good. Maybe it's good. And we'll never know. Mike, what about you?
Oh, where to start? There's a lot. Okay. I just thought this is such a... This felt like old school pound cake in just the visual of it all. It's on page 73. I think it's talking about Shannon. He was asking for that and more, as though his precious daughter had never spread her legs and said, "Come on in and paint the walls."
Oh God!
Hey-o. Here's one that really confused me.
Jesus Christ.
I had to literally Google this to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. When Sheriff Jones first stops by, he asks to use the privy, which is
Toilet?
Like the restroom.
Yeah.
That's what you used back then, the bathroom. So he comes out and says, sweet smelling privy, always nice on a hot day. What?
Yeah.
So the outhouse smelled good? Or
maybe he was being sarcastic.
Maybe
it was one of those like, I love the smell of the shitter in the morning.
Shit. Maybe he's being sarcastic. Maybe that went over my head. And literally as I read it, I feel like a total fucking idiot. I think he was just being sarcastic.
I think he is being sarcastic. Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to say like, all right.
God, I'm looking at this now like I was like ready to come with this, and I went, he's just being an asshole. He's being sarcastic.
The same scene though felt like Wolf's joke about the moon and the star or whatever on the door. Kind of dumb joke.
It's a dumb joke. I mean, Wolf's he doesn't have a great sense of humor.
No, he doesn't. Yeah.
Full Wolf, no humor. Okay.
Wolf, no humor.
If there's nothing else, we got to move on to our next section. And you do have a few more, Mike.
We've got some.
Well, let's say you're going to the privy and you're unloading. Go ahead. Speak. Shit.
I guess a lot of it's just pointing out sex and stuff. But did you read the description of her just talking about rubbing her out and
no.
Okay.
I skipped that one.
This is pretty foul, but this goes into the uncouth part. But it's just like on page 13, it's like she turned to Henry, grasped his arm, and spilled wine on his wrist, ignoring the little mew of distaste. Looking into his face with sudden grimness, she said, "Just make sure that when you're lying down with her in the corn or behind the barn, you're a no-poke." She made her free hand into a fist, poked out the middle finger, then used it to tap a circle around her crotch. Left thigh, right belly, navel, left belly, back again to the left thigh. Explore all you like and rub around it with your Johnny Mac until he feels good and spits up, but stay out of the home place lest you find yourself locked in for life, just like your mummer and daddy. Like, fucking God.
Anytime somebody uses that area, spitting something up is tough beat.
I guess gotta say, on the surface, it seems like this is a pretty unhappy couple.
I gotta tell you, they're not long for this world or any world for that matter.
Yeah, okay. If everything that he's saying is truthful in that scene, like she's a sloppy, bad drunk.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh, absolutely.
There's plenty of people like that in the world. Doesn't mean that they're awful. It just means that,
that when you get and he even says at one point, I remember when he says like the conniving man filled her glass again. So even then he was like, it wasn't me. It was that other part of me that was getting her drunk.
He's responsible for all this shit.
Yeah.
He's a monster.
Yeah.
Okay. It's time. I got some wacky stuff here.
Oh, here we go.
It's time to head over to King's Dominion and room 237.
There's another world out there. I know there is.
Let me kick this off, if I may.
Yeah.
Wilfred's middle name is
Leland.
Oh.
And of course, that's the same name of the evil dwarf who drives off in a carriage at the end of Needful Things and nearly marries Beetlejuice and Lydia in Beetlejuice. Ashley, do you have anything for this category?
Well, Hemingford Home.
Yeah.
Hemingford Home, yes, of course.
It's just
and Rats. Also figure prominently in The Stand, right?
Yeah, the town that Mother Abigail from The Stand is from. And here's the thing. Mother Abigail was bitten by a weasel as a kid, so maybe Hemingford Home just had a pest problem.
Let's check these these crops. What's going on?
And she was what, like 108? So she would have been around.
Yeah.
And actually, she still made her own bread.
And she still made her own bread, and she didn't have electricity for some fucking reason. But would she have known? Would she have remembered the story of this family?
You know what?
I bet she would if you asked her about it.
Yes, she absolutely would have.
Yeah.
She would have been in her 30s or 40s around this time.
She would have remembered the...
Well, it depends on which stand you're reading, I guess. You're reading the 80 or... Either way, she's alive.
Yeah, she's alive.
How many points off this story would you have given it if, like, you know, while in town I stopped by and seemed to, you know, Abigail walked out and said,
who just turned 40.
You doing? Yeah.
I said, happy birthday, Abigail.
Hey, happy birthday, Abigail. Hope you live to 100. And I winked at her. You know,
I said, I'm just getting some dough for my bread, which I still make. I would have
taken half a clown nose, probably.
I would have taken another half off.
It would have been like Ashley's short story collections. I would have just stopped reading it and left the bookmark in there.
Wilford, it's like Abigail, charmed by Wilf's advances, held his hand and said, "You take a stand against that bank."
Oh God! Oh my Christ! And for some reason, King capitalizes stand.
Yes,
that's Alice. Okay, listen, we got some more deadly serious King's Dominion here.
Yes.
Ready for this? This is pretty good, I thought. Wilfrid wrote his letter on April 11th, 1930. So if you do the numbers for that, it's 4/11/1930. Add the numbers together. 4 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 9 + 3 equals 19.
Oh my God.
Mike, you have anything else?
Some weird ones. I felt like the dead understand everything line that I read earlier felt very Pet Sematary to me.
Pet Sematary, that does. Yeah.
The part where on page 18, Henry, it's too late to turn back now. Well, too late to turn back now is the Cornelius Brothers, the song that's in Lisey's story.
Lisey's story.
I believe it. I have a theory that it's Stephen King and Tabitha King's song, just because I feel like that's what was written.
Incredible song.
Yeah.
All right, now we got some. Okay, I thought this was kind of interesting. During his pregnancy talk with Henry, Wilfrid says, "That doesn't change how a woman feels when she's got the chap in her belly." And isn't it how Mia refers to Mordred in Song of Susanna? She always refers to it as the chap. I feel like people don't always use that. I feel like chap being used in that instance was interesting. I'm pretty sure that the word chap is used in Song of Susanna, but if I'm wrong,
that sounds
I'm
right.
Wrong.
Yeah,
sounds right. I got a couple more.
I got
ones,
one more.
I have one.
Yeah, this is a small one, but on page 95, it talks about the tiny fireman, and that reminded me of Stationary Bike.
Oh yeah,
the story from Just After Sunset, where he kind of personified the calories and stuff. So,
okay, Ashley, what do you have? Do you have some?
Well, it's not. It's sort of King's Dominion, because I want to talk a little bit about Dolores Claiborne.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That King said he was influenced by Wisconsin Death Trip, but when I read Full Dark No Stars, again, it was like 2013. I was on a King trip, and I had read Under the Dome, 11/22/63. I wanted to go back and read some older books that I hadn't read before, and randomly, right after I read Full Dark No Stars, I picked up a copy of Dolores Claiborne, which is the perfect companion piece to 1922, and I really thought to myself at the time, King wrote this story, about this woman who, because she felt like she had no choice, killed her husband and threw him in a well. And then years later, King decided, well, what if the shoe was on the other foot? What if a husband felt that he had no other choice and decided to murder his wife and put her in the well? And these were like the two juxtaposition stories that we got out of it. And I thought it was interesting because Dolores is a very unlikable but sympathetic character. And Wilford is an actually pretty likable but unsympathetic character. So I think those books are just like perfect for each other.
Twinners.
Yeah.
And they're both written as statements.
Yeah. And hers was a confession and his was
I didn't even have that's the most obvious one.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
That's great. Yeah.
That's really of course that's the perfect one.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting the places those stories go. Like if you were to start out with that concept of just like a person in a marriage who feels that they have no other choice but to kill their partner and go. and like these are the two stories. I just think it's wonderful.
And of course, there's that part in this book where he also looks down the well and sees Jesse Burlingame, which I thought was interesting. I missed that.
I mean, everything like Dolores, when she throws her husband down there, he doesn't die right away, and like she can hear him down there. So like that also kind of happens in 1922, and like in Dolores, Vera's being haunted by dust bunnies, and she can see these dust bunnies everywhere that no one else can see, and Wilfred's seeing these rats everywhere that no one else can see. Like it's so perfect, and I never hear anyone comparing the two.
This is the only time I can take advantage of this, but what I think a great companion piece to Duma Key actually is, in its own way, almost like the Funhouse Mare version, Pet Sematary and Duma Key.
I guess I should try Duma Key again then.
If you think about what happens to some characters in the back half of that, it's almost a sliding doors type of a book.
Yeah.
Anyway, Duma Key, good book. Really good back half, I thought. Yeah, go back to it, Mike. Go back. Yeah, go back to it. You gotta go back to it. It's good. Especially if you like Pet Sematary.
Love it.
Okay, let me run through these. Ashley or Mike, do you have any more Kings of Mayhem?
That was it.
Okay. Sheriff Jones quotes the book of Proverbs. The quote is, "Better to be living in a wasteland than with a bitter-tongued, angry woman." Mike, you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
Wasteland, of course, Dark Tower. Wilfred tells Henry, "You and I are going to split the payback. It's apt to come to no more than $38 if we retire the loan by Christmas. That's $19 apiece. I'll take yours out of your choring money." And, of course, he says, "Sure, whatever," and then he never sees his son again. And I got name checks bottom 3 Stephen King novels. In the corner, the regulator clock ticked away. Quiet slices of time. The regulator. And what an awful transition into our final thoughts.
Dad, can we go now?
You ready?
Yeah, we've been ready for an hour.
Okay, I'll be right there.
You said that a half hour ago. Yeah, my dad's weird. He gets like that when he's writing.
All right, Mike. Final thoughts, MVP, nose rating. What do you have?
Well, I think this is some of the grisliest writing by Stephen King. I think on the surface, it's dirty, it's ugly, it's merciless, but it's also legitimately terrifying, and not because of that gnarly gore, but as I've been saying all episode, is just the way he burrows into the mind. I mean, in that sense, as I've been saying this entire episode too, it does feel like a Twinner story also for N, perhaps cut from the same burlap sack to stay on theme. And I think like all his greatest horror stories, this one rewards upon reread, if not for the imagery alone. But again, like N and hell, even like 1408, it's just the way this unfolds into that. I mentioned it earlier. God, I'm just echoing myself, but it's that disturbing descent into the inescapable hell that is our own minds. And there are certainly parts of this book that I was like, I do want to stop for a second and just get a breath.
Go outside, take a walk.
The mind is a powerful thing. Yeah, I need to go outside and have a walk. So this is God. If talk about a 180 from my last review. 5 noses, all-timer territory for me. So, and my MVP is I don't know, like the cow. I feel bad for the cow. So,
Achelois, Achelois.
Achelois. Yeah.
Acelois, folks. You know what we're talking about. Ashley, what do you got?
5 out of 5, baby.
Wow.
5 out of 5.
Yeah.
The one thing, so I do very much so love the setting of this story. The fucking pre-Dust Bowl, pre-Great Depression, Nebraska farmland. It's really interesting. It's super spooky. But what I also love is that this story could be told in any time period. Like bitter divorce, manipulating your child to take your side in the divorce, and even go as far as to manipulate them into helping you murder their own mother, and the subsequent fallout that takes place after. The setting could have been 2022, and you could tell essentially the same story. He might, they would have indoor plumbing, but other than that,
like Mother Abigail never got.
Yeah. So, like, you could tell the story at any time period, and it would be good. 5 out of 5. Bright red Pennywise clown noses from me.
Oh wait, who's your MVP? Who's the best?
Arletta.
God bless her.
God
Maybe
bless
she rests
her.
in peace
Listen,
at that welled up well.
Here's the thing.
Wherever she may be.
You married a bitch, you killed a bitch, and then that bitch became super hell bitch and ruined the rest of your miserable life. Allegedly.
But yes, you're right. I think you're right. Okay. I swear I had not talked to Ashley or Mike about this beforehand. And I'm lifting my hands. I'm really reading what I wrote a couple days ago. No notes. I was taken in by King's read on the era, by the madness, the sadness, the doom, and the gloom. And I swear I wrote this before you talked about this. It doesn't matter whether or not the ghosts in this book are corporeal ghosts, because Wilfred is haunted regardless. I'm going to do something I haven't done in years and also give this novella a 5-noser.
Wow.
This might be
unreal.
I mean,
is this the highest rated?
No, the Dead Zone. I think we had a 5 on the Dead Zone too.
Nice.
Well, I mean, like for novellas though.
Oh yeah.
This is. I mean, I did like this book a lot 10 years ago, but this has aged incredibly well for me. I mean, I really have no notes, and this is one of the best examples of Latter-day King, 100%.
Yeah.
So we all agreed 5-nosers.
This will definitely be one. I always struggle when people are like, "You like Stephen King? What should I read?" I'm always like, "Oh, don't read my favorite." And I think that now I think I might send them to 1922.
Not bad, like mid starting point. Mm-hmm. It's like in between, like the best of the short stories and the best.
It's so haunting. It's so sad. It's so fucked up. It's so graphic. I just think that if you don't like it, you probably won't like the rest of his work.
That's not a bad take. Yeah. Mike, you have one last thing to say before we go on our last farewell?
I was just thinking about it, and I just think this is a great tear for him. You know, and I was just looking at all the books that we had coming up, and then also just the books that we've really just covered in the last few months, and it's like, God, what a fucking run. I mean, to do like joke. just up, especially when you just consider, because I everyone knows my thoughts about Dubicki. I still need to finish it, whatever. Yeah, but good. Just After Sunset, Under the Dome, this 11/22. I mean, it's fucking unreal. And then you said Revival just it kills. So
Revival's coming up not that much later.
Not too later. So I'm this is an exciting time for the pod, I think, right now.
Definitely.
So, it's a great period. Well, let's go ahead and give our farewells and our plugs and whatnot. Ashley, what's going on over at Keep It Weird?
Keep It Weird. Actually, I wanted to plug real quick. There is a very spooky, challenging paranormal documentary coming out this Friday. I know this isn't airing yet, so September 8th, and it's going to be on, anywhere you can rent movies. It's called The Unbinding, and it was created by the team of Planet Weird over at Planet Weird, Greg and Dana Newkirk. And we just had them on the pod to talk about that and their other documentaries and their paranormal investigations over the years. So definitely go check out their interview if you like what you hear. Check out their documentaries. They fucking rule, and they're friends of the pod. So, and then just, follow us at Keep It Weirdcast. We've got spooky season coming up, so we've got a lot of really spooky, great episodes coming up for October.
Just a few weeks to spooky season, right, Ashley?
Only a few weeks.
There.
Only 4.
It's a couple of weeks to go, buddy. Mike, I have a deadly serious question for you. What's new in our land of Halloweenies, a horror franchise podcast?
Oh, well, a lot, because this is the start of spooky season, so we've got so much going on over there.
Chucky season 2 is airing, finally, on Peacock.
Yep.
Is it out now?
It's on Peacock.
Oh, awesome. I could finally fucking watch it. Yeah, we've got, Cult of Chucky. We've got Scariest Cults. We've got an X-Files, a 2.5-hour commentary that we recorded last night for Fight the Future, which is fucking great. And at this point, already out. So that's in our Patreon, The Rewind, www.patreon.com/HalloweeniesPod. And we also it's Sawtober. So we just unlocked our 2.5-hour episode on Sawtember. That's what it is. Yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I?
Spooky season around the corner.
It is. But then we're also going to be covering Saw 2, which is going to be, I think, the 8th episode of podcasting you're going to be doing this week, Justin.
My God, I don't even want to think about it. This was the big one, so I'm relieved. This was really great. I had a great time talking about this story.
It's
always
blast.
good when you've got a story that we all just more or less love.
Yeah.
I think people out there might think that we like to tear stuff down. It's so exhausting.
I know.
And we don't enjoy doing it. But you know what? Kind of like we were talking about earlier, it's the truth that ultimately matters. We got to be true to ourselves. We got to be true to the characters. So we got to be true to ourselves. Listen, that about wraps up our coverage in 1922. But fear not, or should I say fear a lot, because next time out, we will be covering the next novella, In Full Dark, No Stars, Big Driver. It's going to be a heavy episode. We'll have some warnings leading into the episode. The material, as Ashley can attest to, is extremely heavy, but we will treat it with the respect it deserves. But for now, the conniving man is telling me to sign off. And you know what? I have got to listen. I always listen to that son of a bitch. So we'd like to wish each and every one of you listening long days and pleasant nights.
I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. But you know you want somebody to treat you good.
Recording stopped.
Incredible.
This is the end of our show. For now. Tune in next week. If you like our programming, consider searching for other bloody disgusting podcasts, such as Creepy, Horror Queers, The Boo Crew, SCP Archives, Nightlight, Margaret's Garden, and more.